radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. Fade to Black. How you doing? It's Monday. Oh, yeah. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Monday, December 14th, 348 days of the new year. Just 17 days left, folks. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planet. I'm your so humble host, Jimmy Church, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south. This is Fade to Black. We are coming to you live from freezing cold Christmas time, downtown Burbank, California. Yeah, it's cold. It's going to get down to 32 tonight. That's no joke for Southern California, let me tell you. And tonight, we have very special guest Bart Sibrel and the Apollo Moon Hoax and his documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. We'll be talking about all of that. And, of course, the alleged 1999 Stanley Kubrick interview that was released last Thursday. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell is going to be here. We're going to be talking about close encounters and a very, very strange case up in Canada that you may have not heard about. We're going to talk with Bob about that and his new book, What If? And that'll be tomorrow night. Wednesday night, that's right, a Christmas special with Jim Mars, live from Tejas. And we're going to be discussing the worldwide media conspiracy and what is really going on out there. We talk about that all the time on this show. And there is only one man to bring on to discuss it, and that is Jim Mars. That will be Wednesday. Of course, Thursday night is Fader Nights. We'd like to welcome Life Change Tea. Amazing products. Everybody just go to lifechangetea.com. The banner's right there. Getthetea.com. We are almost done. We're 3/4 of the way through our 2-week agenda, Rita and I. And tomorrow night, we will have the CEO of Life Change Tea right here on the broadcast. And more on that tomorrow night. And Studio Dome sent me, I didn't get a chance. I might do it in one of the breaks, but they sent us here to the bunker. Some of their new products. Very cool stuff. And their Christmas special is going on for all of you Fadernauts. Just go to the Studio Dome banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Alien Snowfest, February 5th through the 7th. You have one more day until tomorrow to get the super early bird special of $179 for a weekend full pass. Merry Christmas, everybody. Wow, it's 10 days away. Merry Christmas. It doesn't get any merrier than Twisted Sister doing Come All Ye Faithful. Absolutely incredible. I've got more. I got that whole CD. Man. Nothing like air drumming to that. More cowbell. Merry Christmas. Let's get this show cracking. Today, ACD bassist and legend Cliff Williams is 66 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is, moment of silence, please, Nostradamus. 1503 to 1566, self-proclaimed prophet, began publishing his own predictions in 1555. And his quatrains, whether, truly prophetic or misinterpreted or what have you, have attained an absolute cult following throughout the centuries. By 1566, however, he had gout, which had plagued him painfully for many years and made movement difficult, turned into just dropsy and all kinds of other things that were going wrong with him. And in late June of 1566, he summoned his lawyer to draw up an extensive will, giving all of his property plus 3,444 crowns, about 300 grand in today's dollars, minus a few debts, to his wife, pending her remarriage, in trust for her sons pending their 25th birthdays, and her daughters pending their marriages. Shouldn't he have known all of that in advance, by the way? Anyway, on the evening of the 1st of July, he is alleged to have told his secretary, "You will not find me alive at sunrise." The next morning, he was found dead, like Momo. Now, we've got a few minutes. I just want to fire up Twitter right now. I want not the out there stuff. Have any of his prophecies come true? Nostradamus. Has anything come to pass? We know all about all the sensational stuff. You guys are smart. Has one of his quatrains come to pass? I want to know your opinions on that. I want to believe. I do. I want to believe. Hister. Remember that? Hitler. The lion rises in the east and shall be, okay, all right. Well, to me, it could apply to anything. It could apply to my cable bill that arrives every month. Okay. It could apply to that. So, has any of his stuff come true? Today was a pretty crazy day as far as breaking news goes. And over on our Facebook page for Fade to Black, yeah, and you can just go Jimmy Church Radio on Facebook. We posted a bunch of stuff today that, crazy things. One of them, though, is the Lego alien abduction. Have you guys seen that? We posted it all over Facebook. I think it might have hit Twitter at some point today, too. But you got to go and check that out and read the article and look at the pictures that go along with it. And I just got to say, I'm not making fun of alien abductions. What I am tripping on is that it's hit the mainstream, man. It has. And I dig it. So we need to raise the awareness of alien abduction. And you can go and see that over on our Facebook page. Also there, and I'm going to talk about this story today, about the Texas plumber whose name and phone number were on the side of an ISIS truck over in Syria. But also the pictures that Cassini snapped of Enceladus in almost perfect alignment with Tethys. You have to go and see those with the rings of Saturn right there. It's an incredible picture. So go over to our Facebook page, and if you haven't done so, go and like. It's pretty trippy, the news that was breaking today. And the other stuff that is there I'm going to talk about here in just a few short minutes. So with that, let's go ahead and take our break. We are going to be starting another format to the show, and we're going to kick that off next week. But it's just studio clocks and timing of everything is going to change up. So this is it's going to be one of our last mid-show breaks. After this, we won't be doing this anymore. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Bart Sibrel is with us. The Apollo Moon Hoax. His documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. We'll be talking about that. And Stanley Kubrick's alleged 1999 interview that was released last Thursday. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be back right after this short break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Tonight we have very special guest Bart Sibrel. He's going to be here talking about the Apollo moon hoax and his documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell, Close Encounters of the Canadian Kind, and his new book, What If? Wednesday night, Jim Mars, right here. Gonna light it up with Jim. Man, I just knocked my pyramid over. Sorry about that, pyramid. Can't have that happen. On this day in history, 1911, for all of you flat earthers out there, Norwegian Roald Amundsen becomes the first explorer to reach the South Pole, beating his British rival, Robert Falcon Scott. And yeah, he went south. He didn't go east or west to... Okay, let's not go there. Fader fact. A member of the French Foreign Legion wounded while defending France can immediately apply for French citizenship, as he is French by spilled blood. And that is a Fader fact. All right. All of the news that you know nothing about, and this has totally killed my Christmas. 100%. Amazon has halted all sales of hoverboards. That's right. At least 11 reports of hoverboard fires in 10 states are now being investigated by the feds. And I'm quoting here. We consider this a priority investigation. And that is Patty Davis, spokeswoman for the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. She went on to say, this is a popular holiday item, and it's going to be in a lot of consumers' homes. And we'd like to quickly get to the bottom of why these hoverboards are catching fire. The investigations include testing new hoverboards as well as those involved in an incident. I did see that video. You saw it, the hoverboard at the shopping mall, and that baby went up in flames. And is it the weight of the person? Are they being, overheated? I don't know. But these things are catching on fire. And I was watching one of the home shopping networks because, I gotta get the best deal, right? For Rita, when I tell her where to get my hoverboard and what color. I was watching, and they had sold a crazy amount of hoverboards, and I did the math. And they had done, it was close to $20 million in hoverboard sales just on that one channel, on that one network. It's the Christmas gift this year. You don't want your 5-year-old, your 10-year-old out there getting their socks burned off. The news of the federal probe comes after, this is the conspiracy side, after Amazon halted the sale of almost every model of hoverboards on Amazon. And then the Fed stepped in. It took Bezos to, anyway, you get the vibe. A Texas plumber, talked about this right before the break, a Texas plumber has dealt with death threats and abusive phone calls after a Ford truck that he sold to a local dealership showed up in the hands of jihadists in Syria with his company logo and sign intact on the door. Now he's suing for at least $1 million in damages. His name, Mark Oberholzer. He runs Mark One Plumbing in Galveston, Texas. And he says that AutoNation Ford Gulf Speedway dealership in Houston resold his 2005 Ford F-250 pickup without removing the decal with his company's name and phone number on it. After the truck ended up in the hands of jihadists over there, it showed up on Twitter and was featured on the final episode of Comedy Central's Colbert Report. I'm not making this up. By the end of that day, Mark One's office, Mark One's business phone, and Mark's personal cell phone had received over 1,000 phone calls from around the nation, ranging from degrading to some crazy words. I can't repeat them here. And death threats, according to the lawsuit that was filed in Harris County by his attorneys. Up to 200 phone calls per day continued to come in over the next 3 weeks. And the plumber to this day still gets phone calls. I'll never forget the first time I saw that picture on Twitter. I'm like, there's his name. Look, I don't know if you can sue for. Can you sue for that? Shouldn't you have taken the sticker off before you sold it to the dealer? And is there a bought is, as is, sold as is thing? I don't know, but it just feels a little funky to me. Is the dealer responsible? Or should the dealer have been and who bought it? And what about the chain of command? How did it get over to Syria? Who exported the vehicle? Who paid for that? This is all going to come out in this lawsuit, and I think it's about to get crazier. A large asteroid is heading back to Earth on Christmas Eve. That's right. It's Asteroid 2003 SD220, also known as Asteroid 163899. It's scheduled to make its closest approach to Earth on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2015, at more than 28 times the moon's distance. Now, so we're in the clear. It was discovered back in 2003 and is slated to skim past Earth at about 6,700,000 miles. And at that distance, it's only going to be visible through telescopes, amateur astronomers, the guys that do the real work. But we should see images of it. It's pretty crazy. It's about 1.5 miles long. And it looks like, as somebody posted today on Facebook, it looks like Mr. Hanky. Looks like Looks like Mr. Hanky. Looks like an oblong, like a potato, kind of like, and it's tumbling. It's pretty amazing to see, and it's not small. This was released today, and this is interesting, all you flat earthers out there, that Earth may be spinning faster as the glaciers melt. Melting ice triggered by global warming may make the Earth whirl faster. Yes, and it could shift the axis on which we spin, researchers now say. The report was released today. This could also affect sunset times, as the length of Earth's day depends on the speed at which the planet rotates on its axis, allegedly, right? Flat earthers. And prior research found that the rate at which the Earth spins has changed over time. Now, in the new study, researchers have shown that rising sea levels are indeed affecting Earth's spin and axis. Interesting. Now, what do we do? What do I do with my watch collection? Is that now, what's up with 24 hours? Yeah, think about that for a second. Got to take our watches in and get them adjusted, get them tweaked a little bit. Strange, huh? Think about that for a second. Yeah. More than 1,000 people are joining the Jedi Church every single day. That's right. Ahead of the Star Wars release, it's claimed that they say that the faith now boasts 250,000 followers set on, and this is what they do, focusing on learning and becoming one with the Force. The Church of Jediism started as a joke back in 2001 when the National Census first recorded the religious persuasion of respondents. In 2001, some 390,000 people self-identified themselves as Jedis. Yeah. Now, it fell down to about 177,000 in the 2011 census, in that it was halved. But organizers now claimed in the last 4 years to have gotten it back up to 250,000 followers. The Church of Jediism. Now, sit back and relax and listen to this. Kayak. Yeah, Kayak. The website, the travel website, is now offering flights by X-Corps Space Expeditions, owners of the Lynx space plane, which can take travelers on a trip into suborbital space. The travel booking site is now offering trips starting in 2016 for about $100,000 and $100,000 or more, and departing from either the spaceport in California's Mojave Desert, right down the street, or the Dutch Caribbean island of Curacao. Now, you have to enter, when you go to the website, you enter 90N. That's the code for Spaceport America as your departure city. And set 50M, that's 50 miles into the sky until you reach the Earth's thermosphere, as your destination. And then select first class as your status. Now, according to an itinerary that I pulled up, customers leaving September 1st, 2016 can experience the 1-hour trip for about $121,000. Is that crazy? You can go to Kayak right now. Follow the simple instructions that I just gave you, and you can book your trip into suborbital space. This is Fade to Black. I got more news that you know nothing about a little bit later on in the show. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Bart Sibrel is with us. Award-winning filmmaker, writer, investigative journalist, and his film, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell. Wednesday night, Jim Mars. Thursday night is Fader Night. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter, @JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I'll be back with Bart Sibrel right after this.
This This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
People love to shop. What if you could shop and it was actually good for you? What if you could actually purchase items that bettered your life? What goes into your body is important to what quality of life you have. How about shopping for items that better your health? GetTheT.com is that shopping place. We're not only tea, even though that's our #1 seller, we are about helping your health. There's Colostrum LD for those of you with autoimmune troubles. The product helps your stomach get on track. GI problems produce pain. Get relief with Colostrum LD. How about some fat burners? Or maybe some joint aid? Or a power cleanse? There's so much to tell you with very little time. So get help health-wise at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Get help and relief by going shopping. Shop at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Serving people with great products for over 8 years. GetTheT.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for that perfect gift for the holidays? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. Just in time for Christmas. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best Christmas deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, jimmychurchradio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Tuppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. Happy holidays, everybody. I could listen to Twisted Sister all night long. We'll have some more tomorrow night. Tonight we have very special guest, Bart Sibrel is with us. We're going to discuss the Apollo moon landing hoax, his documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and, of course, this Stanley Kubrick alleged video, that an interview that surfaced on the web last Thursday. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell is with us, Close Encounters of the Canadian Kind. And Wednesday night, Jim Mars right here. But first, Bart Sibrel is an award-winning filmmaker, writer, and investigative journalist. He has produced films shown on ABC, NBC, CNN, The Learning Channel, USA, BET, and The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. He has appeared on The Daily Show, Geraldo, NBC, CNN, Fox, Tech TV, The Abrams Report, last week. He was on Coast to Coast with me. He's back with us on Fade to Black tonight. Bart directed the Apollo documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and also Astronauts Gone Wild. Tonight, we're going to be discussing all of that. You can go to his website, www.sibrel.com, Sibrel.com. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Mr. Bart Sibrel. Bart, good evening, sir.
Hey, Jimmy. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. And thank you for coming back on with us. It's always great to have you on the show. And it was a lot of fun having you on Coast Friday night, and especially, with all the hubbub that's going around with that interview and everything else, and it was last minute. And thank you for coming on the Coast. It was a great conversation, and we just decided, the two of you, let's continue it and go a little bit deeper tonight. So thank you for finding the time to come on with us and share your thoughts with the Fade or Not family.
No problem.
Now, before we get started, because I do want to talk about the moon landing hoax, and we've got a lot of stuff to discuss there, and also my thoughts have certainly gotten stronger over the last year and a half since you were on the show. I can't believe it's been that long, but it has been. But now that the weekend has gone by, and let me tell you, Bart, I had email over the weekend after the Coast show, after everything that I posted, and I had Jay Widener on the show last Thursday too, as well as Coast to Coast on Friday. I've emailed over the weekend going, Jimmy, man, this could be real. It could be. It's funny, Bart, isn't it? People are going to see what they're going to see, and they're going to believe what they want to believe, no matter what we say about it. Do you find that strange?
Well, it's a work of art. It's not him. I mean, they talk about me having Aldrin swear on the Bible 3.5 years before it happened. The guy looks a little bit like him, got the same receding hairline, and it sounds a lot like him, I think, but it's not him. But it's interesting. I remember when Trump resigned, I think, from the 2012 election, and there was some roast at the White House, and Obama said, "I'm glad you're out of the race now. Perhaps you can stop focusing on whether I was born in Kenya or not and focus on more important things, like whether or not the moon landings are real." And the fact is, the moon landings are not real. Obama born in Kenya, I have no idea, but it could be. You never know. That being the case, if you're really good and you're in control and you have, nothing to worry about, you can say something absurd like a joke. And that's kind of what this video is. There's that film coming out, Moonwalkers, in January. And I think they saw that and, came up with an idea, something like that. It's pretty clever. But if there's a 20-minute version out there, in the second half, the director's telling the, Kubrick character what to say. And yet at the beginning, he acts surprised. So, it's contrived, but some of it was taken out of context. People don't listen to the last half, and figure it out. But, it's kind of fun, interesting. The fact is, if they're making this movie, even though it's a comedy, what they are actually saying is the moon landings are fake, and Kubrick probably had something to do with it, which both are probably, the moon landings are definitely fake, and Kubrick probably shooting 2001, at the time, about going to the moon, probably, that was the guy they would have chosen to make it look real. So it's kind of fun. It's telling the truth through the teeth, just like Obama did. The moon landings, are fake, which is he made a joke of all the while they're fake, you see. So it's, kind of interesting. At least we're talking about it, and people, know that it was fake, unfortunately. And
yeah, the one thing, and I brought this up on Coast on Friday with you, the one thing that prompted me to write you nearly in real time after I saw it happen, I wrote you and I said, okay, because I had to scratch my head and go, what? Okay, when did that come out? That was like 2001, 2002. Could he have been out there on the streets with the Bible and doing this thing in 1999? That is the one key thing here that would absolutely unravel the whole thing. So I wrote you. And I said that. I said, okay, Bart, I know that the movie came out in 2001, but were you out there in 1999 speaking about this and doing the Bible thing? And you can emphatically say that none of that happened until 2002. And if that is indeed the case, and you're the guy that can make that statement, then there's nothing to consider in this alleged 1999 video. It is completely hoaxed. It's completely fake.
Well, definitely. The incident with the punch and everything, that was in September of 2002, and Kubrick died in March of 1999, and the difference between the two is 3.5 years. So they're referring to me 3.5 years before I became known for asking an astronaut to run the Bible. But it's still pretty good, you know. He says some relevant things. Again, you know, I don't know if it's for fun. It probably is, but it's still, you know, it's bringing awareness to the topic, even though it's fake, you know. It shows you how something fake can be convincing, which there's another proof that the moon landing is fake right there.
Now let's back. Well, you know, Kubrick could have been time travelers. You know, that could be the error. Maybe they. maybe.
You know, I just got back from the future, and I heard you say that.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's go a little bit before a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Let's back up to that. Before that, when you were a kid, were you a fan of you know, astronauts and Apollo and Gemini and Mercury and the space program in general?
I was the biggest fan I'd ever met in my whole life. My dad was in the Air Force, and as an officer, he got these kind of publicity stills. I think about a dozen 9x12 color pictures. I had them on my bedroom wall for 10 years, so I saw them nearly 4,000 times. And then when I was 14, there was this guy, one of the first guests on Oprah, and he was doing a couple other talk shows. He worked for Rocketdyne, a contractor of NASA, and he was there, and he was the English editor. So the thing was so departmentalized, no one saw the whole picture except him and the senior people, because he edited the grammar of all these memos going back and forth. And he saw that they weren't going to go to the moon. They were planning on faking it and so forth. And so I started producing, you know, the film. I mean, I guess I planted a seed. You know, when I was 14, 10 years later, I was a filmmaker. And actually, the guy who had produced that program was sitting beside me. I was editing something for him. I forget what it was. And I'm like, do you remember the guy in your show who said the moon landings are fake? And he put me in touch with them. And I originally turned down the project. I thought, you know, there's some strange things about this. The shadows don't intersect, and the Russians are more advanced, and the radiation and the weird behavior of the astronauts. You know, there's at least a 1 out of 4 chance they didn't go. And I like puzzles, and I'm kind of a relentless personality, so I turned it down. I figure if 1 out of 4 chance they really didn't go to the moon and I start overturning these rocks, might be hazardous to my health. So I thought, why should I die for someone else's lie? I always wanted to, you know, have a future and a family, so I risked that. But 5 years went by, and I started reading the Bible about right and wrong and judgment, and I thought, you know, that kind of makes sense, which means this spectacular lie, if it were a lie, would be very profound to history, and yet very few people would know about it. So we raised $500,000. It was financed by a board member of an aerospace company who's at this hour making rockets for NASA. The guy's got like 175 IQ, and he knows from an engineering point of view they never went to the moon in the 60s. And so his patriotic duty was funding these films. And 3.5 years into the film, I thought we'll never know, but wrong. We got a previously, you know, censored tape, an hour of one shot over and over again of them faking part of the photography right in front of your eyes. Plus a little third channel of audio of the CIA or somebody like that, prompting them to only answer 4 seconds after dead air to create this impression that they're further away from the Earth than they really were. And we have all that on the tape, too. It's concrete proof they didn't go. Before this footage, I'd say it's a theory, but with this footage, it's a fact.
What did that do to you emotionally? You know, like you said, you were the biggest fan, and then this unravels. Were you ever tempted not to do the film because of that and your own, you know, patriotism and the way that you felt about this country, that maybe we shouldn't go ahead and go forward with this, and I'll keep this to myself?
It's patriotic to expose the truth. What the faking of the moon landing was an unpatriotic act. It was cheating in the Olympics, and cheaters in the Olympics don't deserve to win. And there was a space race, and they cheated. It's a fact. It may be an unpleasant fact, but it needs to be exposed. You can forgive everybody as long as they tell the truth. And, you know, they can't go to the moon today 50 years later. So how could they possibly go on the first attempt with 1960s technology? It just defies reality.
What about I think one of the unintended things for you, which was great, was to allow other researchers out there after seeing your film to be motivated to go out and start to uncover, other aspects, time constraints and everything else for you, that you can go and investigate everything. Plus, there's other minds out there that go into other directions and think outside of the box. But you sort of created an entire industry about the Apollo moon landing hoax. And what do you think about the other evidence that has been revealed since 2001?
Well, there's a lot of good information up there. If you go to Sibrel.com, under the moon films, there's actually, I think, the second one. First is A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and the next one is one I just contributed to. It's a Fox special called Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon? It was the first pilot episode of Conspiracy Theory. The thing was so popular, it aired 3 times in 1 year. And Fox wouldn't air A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon without major editing because they said, it was too accusational, without hearing the other side of the story. My thought was, we've heard their side of the story at that point, for 35 years. So 45 minutes of the other point of view, I think that's, fair trade. But they didn't like that. They did their own, but it's a, profoundly investigated program that uncovered things I didn't know about, some I did know about, but did not share. And, you tag that film with the footage, which is in my film, and I think you have enough evidence, more than enough, to know that the moon landings were fake. The government won't admit it because, fear of repercussions or whatever. But it's just the way it is. Sometimes you have to face reality, even if it's unpleasant.
What did you think about? Do you stay up on top of all of the new evidence that's dealing with the Apollo hoax? Do you stay up on it?
Not really. I try to put it behind me. It's just an incredibly intense project. And I do interviews about it, and, I'm writing one last little memoir, a book by the same title as the first film. And it'll be an ebook with links to it and everything in there. But it's an exhausting topic. I think I've done enough. The fact is the moon landings are fake. If you're open-minded, if you watch A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon and Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon, I don't see how you could think we really went. Plus the fact that Russia just said their goal to put a man on the moon is 2030. Now that means they're projecting 15 years it's going to take to develop the technology to go to the moon. And yet, wait a minute, Kennedy in 1961, only 8 years, half the time practically, they went to the moon, and half the time with 50 years older technology. Now, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
50 years later, it's going to take twice as long to reach the moon. Maybe.
What about a couple of? I want to address a couple of the big talk out there when it comes to the hoaxes. Number one, the Freemason connection, and the Freemasons can keep secrets, so the astronauts being Freemasons can keep secrets, and that was a priority for NASA and the government. What do you think about that?
Well, I heard that. I actually haven't looked into that. I've heard from more than one source that Aldrin is or was a Mason, whatever. And I've heard that every astronaut has been, except maybe the teacher or somebody like that. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it's relevant or not necessarily. The fact is they didn't go. Now, you can try to figure out who perpetrated that for what reason. Nixon was president at the time, and figure out the military people. And I don't know. My first source, who told me it was fake before I believed it, said it was all about money. The rocket wasn't really going to the moon, so they could milk all this more profit out of it, spend it on black projects and, Cambodia or Laos or whatever, where Congress didn't approve the where to go, and they went there and did it. Who knows? The fact is they did fake it. They have not yet admitted it. Therefore, they're suspect for trust.
And one of the other interesting angles that is surfaced is the that they only use really one image of the Earth, over and over and over again. And if I go back and I look at the funny thing happened on the way to it almost seems like it's that image that they used in their films too, and it's the same image of Earth over and over again, and we don't have any fresh images, therefore we didn't go to the moon.
Well, a year ago this month, NASA sent a probe called the Orion probe into the Van Allen radiation belt. Now, most people don't know, starting at least where it gets strong, about 1,000 miles up above the Earth and extending about 25,000 miles is this lethal band of radiation. Every mission in space history, Gemini, Mercury, the space shuttle, the space station, Skylab, all that's well below, 750 miles below the radiation. However, if they went to the moon, they'd have to go through this radiation to the moon and back. In this Orion video they did promoting the mission, they said they're going to 3,600 miles and U-turning. So whatever is at 3,600 miles is their destination, and what is there is the Van Allen radiation belt. The guy humbly named it after himself. So they're going up to the radiation belt with two Geiger counters, two different types of Geiger counters, right? Okay, so the point of the mission is to measure the radiation. And the guy in the video, it's so bizarre, he says there is a dangerous field of radiation surrounding the Earth. And then he says, on camera, we must first learn to protect astronauts before we can send people through this region of space. So he's admitting that the technology to protect them from going through this radiation does not yet exist. So wait a minute. They claim to have had that technology, or it didn't matter, the radiation, back when they allegedly went to the moon and orbited the moon. That'd be a total of 9 times in, 9 times out, 18 times here in the radiation belt. No radiation sickness, no radiation poisoning. And now they're saying it's dangerous and the technology does not yet exist to protect people from it. Then how did they go through it to the moon and back? They didn't. The tape we uncovered not only shows a fake shot, it shows them faking being halfway to the moon, meaning they couldn't go halfway because they're faking it. So they're in Earth orbit, and that's what they did. They went up and they got, to launch in front of people. And they got to splash down in front of people, and they got real zero gravity of the peanut butter sandwich floating by,
right,
which they could achieve from Earth orbit. But
right,
they just stayed there for 8 days. You know what I mean?
Right.
And everything beyond that was faked. And, NASA virtually admitted it in this Orion video.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's the same video that the interview that I saw, and I think I spoke to you about this on Friday on Coast. But I don't know if it's the same interview, but it's certainly the same verbal slip-ups. And he literally looks in the camera and says, as soon as we can figure out this Van Allen, I'm paraphrasing here, as soon as we can figure out this Van Allen belt thing and we can get through that safely, we're going to the moon. He didn't say going back to the moon. It was like this weird, and I was like, wait, what do you, you can't be that dumb. Or was it just a natural slip up, and then they let the interview go out that way? It's exactly what wasn't supposed to be said. You know what I mean? It's 180 degrees off of what they needed to say in that interview.
Well, I think because the tide is turning. It used to be a minority of people who thought the moon landings were fake. And now with the, that generation died away whose hearts melted when they saw it on TV. Now people never saw that, never had that emotional imprinting, look at it objectively, and they objectively say, they didn't know. And so, I think because the tide is turning, they're kind of come up, with these kind of misinformation, or maybe it's their way, I think it's pretty, telling the truth, I think it's pretty positive. You got this film, it looks really good. I'm a pretty good judge of previews, and it looked like a really sharp film coming out called Moonwalkers about them asking Kubrick to fix the moon mission, which indeed they more than likely did. And it's so funny. I think maybe the truth is coming out, and even if it's a hoax about a hoax, it's still a hoax, and it still shows how you can mislead people. The fake Kubrick interview proves how you can mislead people with the television image. right?
Yeah, and go viral really, really quick and get an alternative message out there. I did get an email.
Yeah, it went viral. It went viral in 1969. 1 billion people were watching it viral, you see? And it imprinted that on them, and they don't want to give it up, you know?
Yeah, somebody emailed me and said, Jimmy, why would they hoax a hoax of a hoax? And I wrote him back and said, so you could email me and ask me this question. Think about that for a second. And that's, you know, it's really the funny view.
I played poker with a guy, and he did something I think I called a double bluff or the triple bluff. He, made me know that he was bluffing, and I knew that that's what he wanted me to know. Therefore, I thought that, but he thought one past me, you know. It was pretty incredible. And he can do double bluffs, triple bluffs, and, you know, mess with people's mind and say the facts right in front of people of crimes and make it look like a joke, you know. Yeah. And but according to Shakespeare, you know, and Jesus, the truth will come out.
We're about to take a break. I wanted to read you this. This is from Renee, one of our producers here. And she said, "Hi, Bart. This is not a question for you tonight, just a comment. And you should thank your lucky stars, Bart, that you didn't get a question from Renee because she is harsh. She is good." Anyway, she says, "Thanks for your website articles on the proven dangers of vaccines and fluoridation. As an activist with the Fluoride Action Network, I highly recommend them to every Fade to Black listener. Thank you, Bart." So there you go. I just read her statement.
Well, these are just things I learned. You know, again, I used to think the moon landings are real, probably for the majority of my life. Now I know the facts. And, you know, I grew up like everyone else thinking vaccines are good. It's a good thing. And then because of mainly natural news, you know, Mike Adams, I studied that plus his sources. And I realized, you know, there's something squirrely going along with that. They never bring up a simple point. If you wanted to protect yourself from all the viruses, only you need the vaccine. You could have the entire rest of the planet not vaccinated, and you'd be protected. So why do you need us to be vaccinated? No one ever asked that question, do they?
And and on the same subject, in a weird way, Stanley talked about that in 1964. You know, in Dr. Strangelove. There are no coincidences, are there? Isn't that strange? Or were they worried about fluoridation back in 1964? I don't know. I was born in 63.
No, people knew about it from the moment they mandated putting it in the water supply. People knew something was wrong about this. Now, remember, Obama just said to Trump, you know, recently, 4 years ago, why don't you focus on the moon landings being fake? Okay, and then in a film by Kubrick, who faked the moon landing, you see, they say fluoridation is bad for you, and the person who says it is crazy. You see how brilliant that is?
Yes.
How brilliant that is? Fluoridation is bad for you from a person, a character who's crazy. You see, that's pretty sly, if you ask me.
Yeah, pretty slick. You know, hoaxing the hoax with a hoax, right? Same thing, the double bluff.
Yeah. You know, the guy, I can tell you this, the guy who first told me the moon landings are fake, he said, "Bart, you need to get water distilled." And I've been drinking distilled water and using non-fluoridated toothpaste for the last 8 years. I just had a checkup, 0 cavities. I haven't used fluoride in 8 years.
What does your dad think about the movie?
Well, I think he's amused by it. He thinks the moon landings are real. He was in the Air Force, and he thinks it's an insult, you know, to the pilots to say it wasn't real. And he's smarter than me. His IQ is substantially higher than mine. And yet, the Bible says with that knowledge can come pride, which blinds you from seeing other facts. And I have imagination as a filmmaker, and I can comprehend how they could pull it off. And I, with those eyes, not being hypnotized, I look at it objectively, and sure enough, I see things. I'm a filmmaker. My job is to make fake scenes look real. And I can tell you that these pictures that they claim are on the moon were lit with electrical lighting. I bet my life on it. 100%, it's a fact. Just like, you know, at a wine tasting, the guy can tell you who teaches the class, you know, where the wine came from, how old it is. I can look at, you know, lighting and tell you, is that sunlight or electrical light? It's my job. And when I saw the pictures finally, I'm like, you know, these are shot inside at a television studio. That's pretty interesting. I don't know. The problem is that it's really the only positive conspiracy, Jimmy. I mean, whoever killed Kennedy is dead. Whoever did 9/11, 3,000 people are dead. But this is like telling someone their team, which won the Super Bowl, did so by cheating, putting drugs in the opposing team's Gatorade. How dare you say such a thing? And people, associate it with intellectualism, science. If you're a teacher, if you're an intellectualist, you're an American, we did it. Even though, we won the game, you're not even there in the stadium, much less on the field. We went to the moon. You're trying to take it away. It's a positive conspiracy, and people don't want to give it up like sweet candy.
Let's take a break right there. It's a good spot to do it. Thank you, Bart. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. More with Bart Sibrel right after this break. Tonight, we're talking about a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Back right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Ray Sobs here once again to tell you about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place in the ski resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. What a lineup. Richard Dolan, Chase Kletsky, Micah Hanks, George Norrie, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, keynote speaker Stanton Friedman, and more. Along with the speakers and lecturers, join the luncheon hosted by Jimmy Church. See a world-class UFO ET-themed ice sculpture contest with attendees voting the winner. Enjoy the quaint shops, restaurants, and pubs in Big Bear Lake Village, and enjoy some of the best sky watching you can imagine. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself with a retreat the first week of February and come relax with us in a premier ski resort town high in the mountains of the Southern Sierras with an average of over 300 sunny days a year. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now. Visit our website and register at aliensnowfest.com. That's aliensnowfest.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Tonight we have very special guest Bart Sibrel is with us. We're talking about his documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell, It's going to be right here. We're going to be talking about Close Encounters, the Canadian Kind. Wednesday night, Jim Mars, right here. And then, of course, Thursday night, Open Lines and Fader Night. Now, getting back to Bart, and I will heavily right now recommend that all of you go to Bart's website, click, go, and watch the documentary If Anything Happened on the Way to the Moon. And especially before you ask any questions with me or shoot me an email or write Bart, you got to go watch the movie first and draw your own conclusions. There's a lot of information there. And Bart, I asked you early on in the show about you being a kid and a fan of the space program, because I was too. And all boys, well, maybe a couple of strange ones weren't, in America at that time in the 60s and 70s, that's all we did was dream about. We had our favorite astronauts. We had the posters. We had the models. We drew pictures. It's what we did. And knowing what I know now, and especially after watching your documentary and other information out there and interviewing a lot of people, I scratch my head and I just wonder, could we have faked it? Is it possible? And one of the things that freaks me out is the spacesuits, and I mean this for real. In that, the radical shifts in temperature from being in a shadow to versus being in direct sunlight out in the vacuum of space, and what that would do to your body. I can't see that air conditioner or heater that's hanging on your back, battery powered, keeping up with that, and also the radiation that suit should be blocking. Forget it. We're going to talk about the capsule itself in just a bit. But that's one of the things right there that makes me go, what do you think about that and the spacesuit? If the spacesuit was supposed to do what it was supposed to do, is it possible that it could keep up with those 200-degree shifts in temperature that would happen in seconds?
Well, von Braun, who was a former Nazi who was in charge of the Apollo program, wrote a book called Conquest of the Moon. I think you can buy an antique copy of it for about $85. We have a copy of it. And then it says a couple of interesting things. First of all, he says it's impossible to go to the moon in a single rocket. He said you have to have 3 rockets, each one taller than the Empire State Building, each one weighing 10 times the amount of the Queen Mary ship. Of course, they went in one rocket, 1/30th of that. He basically recanted on his math by about a factor of 45,000% to say they could go to the moon. And then secondly, he said that when you land on the moon, and you'll see this if you can go to Conspiracy Corner at Sibrel.com, click on the Russia story, you'll see an artist depiction of them on the moon, and they basically built an igloo in the dirt. Because von Braun said these little particles of sand that hit the Earth all the time and burn up in the atmosphere don't burn up on the moon. Sometimes they're traveling at, 3,000 miles an hour, up to 20,000 miles an hour. And they would go through your skull, the spacesuit, the spacecraft, and cause a catastrophic failure. He said every 24 hours there'd be a 50% chance of a catastrophic failure. And so you'd have to go into a cave, and that's depicted in this drawing. Additionally, they got the Earth really big there, in the background, which is how it would look. There's not a single Apollo picture with the huge Earth in the background on the surface of the moon. Not a single one. And I think that would be the picture you'd want to do. You see, they couldn't fake, the position of the continents relative to the point of view and the clouds going by and it rotating. It was too difficult, so they just didn't show it. And they did the same thing with the TV picture. I mean, in 1967, I Dream of Jeannie went from black and white to color. And in 1967, Bewitched went from black and white to color. And in 1967, Gilligan's Island went from black and white to color. Now, I think if Gilligan's Island is worthy of color, surely putting a man on the moon, the greatest technical accomplishment of all time, you'd have a high-resolution color camera. But they deliberately didn't use it, and they basically what aired was fourth generation, a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a TV image, very snowy. It really could have been shot in someone's backyard with a spotlight at night. And everyone, weeped and, cheered, and it kind of burned that impression in. And even when much clearer pictures came out that proved photographic fraud, they refuse to see it because it already burned in their minds that they went. You know, it's really hard for them to accept anything else. Kind of like if I say, hey, Jimmy, let me take you out to this great restaurant, and this cockroach crawls across the table, no matter how good the steak is. What do you remember of cockroach? What do you remember 30 years from now? Cockroach, you know? And when people have that burned in, we went to the moon and they're crying and cheering, it's really hard to undo that, really hard. You have to be truly open-minded and willing to accept failure and admit failure in order to accept us.
Have you been to the Smithsonian's Air and Space Museum in D.C.?
I have.
Okay, I'm glad. I've been there a couple of times, maybe a few times. And one of the things, and I talked to Jay Widener about this the other night, is when you go and see those space capsules and you go up and you look inside of Apollo, honestly, I swear, I'm not saying it's because of your film or documentary or what I know. I'm saying when you see it firsthand, the first thing that pops into your mind is no way. No way, no how did that, no, stop. It just doesn't, it looks like, I was telling Jay, it reminded me of like a 1965 Volkswagen Beetle, that kind of technology. When you look at it, things just don't add up. It just doesn't.
No, 1965 Volkswagen Beetles are good cars. I would say this was more like a really nice doghouse.
And you understand what I'm trying to say here, right?
Yeah, I mean the design that you could poke your finger through the titanium foil or whatever it was, and the idea that they could power against 250 degrees heat and get it down to 72 degrees on a bank of car batteries running air conditioned for 3 days. I just, and they say, the specifications electronically, the schematics electrically, they are not classified. They're just not available because they accidentally got destroyed. Even the Saturn V specifications got destroyed. You can't even prove, unless you got old copies of, that the fuel was not sufficient for escape velocity. It was only sufficient for going into Earth orbit. You could figure that out. You know what I mean? And then, poor Ron Howard wanted to make this, IMAX film. And you watch it, he wants to commemorate how great the moon landings are, and 90% of it are reenactments. And sometimes, even though it's, 70 millimeter IMAX, you see this tiny square of about 10% of the screen in the middle, and you can see a VHS tracking line because the only way he could find the footage was from renting it from Blockbuster, just like I did. Because he asked NASA to transfer this stuff first generation to, IMAX, and that's when the tapes accidentally disappeared. Now, they have the Constitution and the, Declaration of Independence, 250 almost years old, but they don't have something that's like, 48 years old. They misplaced it. And, because he was about to transfer these, not too brilliant sets, because they were shooting fourth generation black and white. He was going to transfer it at super high resolution and project it the size of a football field or half that size on a screen. And you would really see, if it were fake or real, you'd see it pretty clearly. And they weren't going to allow that to happen. That's when they accidentally misplaced. I'm estimating at least 1,000 pounds of tapes. I put 1,000 pounds somewhere the other day, and I just can't figure out where I put it.
Yeah, it's just missing, right? Well, have you ever thought about? And this is how my brain works. But go with me on this for a second, Bart. The most extraordinary event in human history, right? We walked on the moon. It's the most extraordinary event ever. Why aren't there literally hundreds of blockbuster full feature movies based on this and documenting and covering? The only one that I can think of is Apollo 13, and that's the one that was messed up. Why doesn't Hollywood care about this important historical event, and why don't they make movies about it? Is it because we would see that it was faked, right? If we shot a bunch of spectacular moon footage of, guys on the moon, that we would be able to go back and say, is that wrong for me to think like that? Why aren't there more Hollywood movies based on the Apollo missions?
Well, to tell you the truth, Jimmy, and all my work on this for 20 years, I've never even thought about that. That's a really good point. If they made, the Ten Commandments movie or, Saving Private Ryan, all these World War II movies and things like that, why hasn't there ever been a drama about them going to the moon? There's not been a single movie about it. It's like they won't touch it. Now, there was a film, I think it came out in 1978, called Capricorn 1.
Right.
It's actually a very well-made movie, and it's about a fake, quote, Mars landing. And in the, VHS sleeve that boasts on the back, the only space film ever shot with NASA's full cooperation. So they never agreed to help out with any space film. Even 2001: Space Odyssey, they officially did not help out with it. But when a film comes out about a fake mission, then they're fully cooperate. I think they had to, otherwise they would say, it really was fake. So they had to turn the tables on them, use reverse psychology, and say, come on in and make a film about it.
Yeah, why is it? Forget about Apollo 13, and that's even a stranger movie actually to make. Where's Apollo 11? Where is that? That wouldn't that be the most epic movie to make? It's so triumphant and such the biggest event, but it hasn't been made, and one has to just wonder why.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, Jimmy, I never thought about that. It's really interesting. Yeah, I've been working on this long, and I haven't considered that. That's a good point. I think they're afraid to do it. I remember there was a short film that won Best Academy Award, and I think it came out in 1991. It's called Precious Images, and in 6.5 minutes they show, from the beginning of filmmaking up to that moment in history, like 1 second of, 500, 600, major motion pictures. And all of them are completely contrived. There's no documentaries or anything like that, and it's all, fictional films, except there's a shot of them on the moon. In there, among the rest of the fictions. Up there for just 1 second. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think people in Hollywood, because that was their craft, they noticed that the pictures didn't look right, that they looked like they're in a TV studio because they work that way all the time. And I think this propelled the film forward. And, they had the top actors of the day, James Brolin and Elliot Gould and Karen Black, Kelly Savalas, what's her name, Brenda Ricardo or something like that. They had really top actors in it. And I think because the establishment was saying, hey, pay attention to this. And it's a pretty suspenseful film, even if, they did go to the moon. But I think the main thing you have to understand is the South Pole has 100-mile-per-hour winds, and it's almost 100 degrees below zero. And there are bases there because it's humanly possible. If it were possible to go to the moon in the 60s on the first attempt with 50 years older technology, there would be bases on the moon right now as we speak, but they're not. And the fact that they're not is proof itself that it cannot be done. Because if it can't be done today, how can it possibly be done 50 years ago?
And one of the other things I want to address, I want your opinion here, the meteorite idea and the thickness of what the capsules were made out of and the command module. It doesn't sit right with me. There's nothing to deflect, and there's no way to repair it. And how could they possibly dodge everything that was coming at them? Surely, if you went to the moon, there would be stories about them having to repair holes in the capsule, and we were hit by this, and we lost pressure. There would be those stories, and they are just, quite frankly, not there. And I just have a hard time buying into that now. Knowing what I know today, it seems like they would have been riddled with stuff, and they had to make repairs.
Well, people don't realize that when Apollo 12, the second mission to the moon, in December of 1969, 6 months later, people were phoning in the networks complaining that reruns of I Love Lucy were being interrupted. And then about a minute and a half into it, their color camera, the astronaut accidentally, in quotes, pointed at the sun, ruining all the television images for the entire mission. So they saw these images in 1969 July, but they didn't see them the second time. The third time, they allegedly, had this failure where they had to save the crew. They never left Earth orbit either. It's just to get people dramatically interested back in the program. And by Apollo 14, it was 2 years after Apollo 11. They had 2 years of Kubrick or whatever to pass on his artistry to, and then to get their act together. But the thing is, people have already accepted it, that it's real. So it's actually easier to fool them in the later missions because you've already won them over. You're preaching to the choir. You know what I mean? And they took advantage of that. And,
Well, a meteorite, that there was a slip of the tongue, the meteorite, if it's traveling at, I'm pulling numbers out of the air, 17, 20,000 miles an hour, wouldn't it just like go in one side of the capsule and out the other, or maybe even take out a couple of astronauts in the meantime?
Well, any particle, even the size of a grain of sand, yes, it would go in and out, and it would cause an air leak, which would cause decompression, either of the spacecraft or the spacesuit. And to my knowledge, they had no repair equipment for that eventuality. It wasn't even discussed. I don't see how you could repair it. I mean, maybe if you're in your spacesuits, maybe you possibly could repair the lunar module in your spacesuits and pump the air back in, possibly, maybe. But the fact that von Braun said, you had to go into a cave, and they never did, and they had so many missions and hours on the moon that he said it was a 1 in 4 chance, that they were so many times on the moon, 1 in 4 chance. It was, it's a 50% chance every 24 hours. So eventually you're gonna have a catastrophic failure. And to say they went all these times, 6 times, I never had it. That's against the odds that the genius said. So what can you do?
Exactly. And with when you're traveling that 250,000 miles or whatever, 237,000 miles out to the moon, you have one side of the command module heating up to just stupid temperatures. And then the way that this is their explanation, they would rotate the craft to the cool side and allow it to heat up and allow the hot side to cool down, and that's how they got there. Again, is that just too much for us to grasp?
No, it's a great theory, just like vaccines are theoretical. But that doesn't mean vaccines work, and that doesn't mean that actually worked. I mean, there are only 3 people there, and 5 billion of us to convince, and only 3 people there. If they said it worked, how can we disprove it? You know what I mean? There's no independent press coverage. World War II and all those terrible events happened, in front of everybody. But this event, there's no independent press coverage. A TV picture completely controlled by the federal government and the Nixon administration. If they say it's on the moon, then it must be on the moon. I mean, we had no reason to doubt them. And, but, without all this time going by, you can, the longer it goes on, the more absurd you can see the notion it really is.
Now, what about the one thing that everybody keeps bringing up, NASA too, not just you and I and other, the Van Allen radiation belt? How, if we were to pass through it, what would the results of that be? Would we come back to Earth and just die of cancer, quickly? What kind of exposure are we looking at, and how could we actually technically avoid it, knowing what we know today? It would be obviously protection on the capsule itself, but also passing through it very quickly too as well. What would the real effects be of that radiation?
Well, if your listeners go to Sibrel.com, the Conspiracy Corner, go down to the Orion article. It references the actual charts that von Braun was given by Dr. James Van Allen. And he said it would be at least 5 rem per hour to 100 rem per hour. 1 rem per hour would kill you. So it's at least 5, to 20 times more dangerous than previously believed. In fact, in 1994, when the space shuttle went to its highest altitude, they, to their surprise, were seeing the radiation with their eyes closed at nighttime. When they slept, they'd see little fireworks from the radiation going through the spacecraft and through the retinas of their closed eyes. And they reported the following, word for word: the radiation belt surrounding Earth is more dangerous than previously believed. Well, previously believed can only be the Apollo missions. So it's more dangerous than believed during the Apollo missions. So wait a minute, they're like 650 miles away from the beginning of it. Imagine radiation so severe you could see it with your eyes closed from 650 miles away. And then wait a minute, if it's more dangerous than previously believed, then how could a crew 650 miles from it know more about it than the people in the middle of it? The only way is if they never were in the middle of it, you see. So there's an admission right there. People would just, connect the dots.
I'm reading it here. I didn't know it was 25,000 miles thick. So
yeah, now basically I contacted NASA and I asked to speak to this guy in the video who said they have yet to develop the technology to go through the radiation. They would not let him speak to me. And I wrote them these questions, and any question that was kind of, innocuous, they answered. But when I asked any difficult question, they just acted like I never asked the question. And then I asked, well, you had 2 Geiger counters on board. Could I please have the Geiger counter readings of the radiation belt and RAM? And they said it's a classified secret. And I said, wait a minute. If you send a probe with taxpayer funds to the sun to find out the temperature, you tell us and you tell science. And if you send a probe to Jupiter to find out how much hydrogen is in Jupiter's atmosphere, you just tell us the reading. So this is just a part of nature, how much radiation is in the radiation belt. So why would a part of nature be classified? Unless, of course, it would prove that the radiation is so severe that the Apollo astronauts could never have, gone through it. And that's what the data shows.
Did any of the astronauts get sick?
No, not a single one ever. And none of them have ever died of cancer, to my knowledge, either. If you're a pilot or steward or stewardess, you go up and you got a radiation detector on the belt, just like people who work with X-rays.
Right.
Because you're just going 5 miles up, 5 miles into the radiation. Can you imagine being almost 300 miles into it? How much radiation there'd be, or going through it? You know what I mean? I don't know what to say. It just, and that's admitted in this video. The technology to survive going through the belts does not yet exist. And when I asked to speak to the guy who said it, they wouldn't let me. When I asked for the Geiger counter readings, what they were, they wouldn't show it to me. They said I had to file a Freedom of Information Act to get it.
As far as I know, everybody did kind of grow up to be ripe old men. I don't think any of them got sick or died of cancer. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
No, one had a motorcycle accident, one had a heart attack, another guy was in his 80s, you know what I mean?
Right.
Open heart surgery, so forth. So they're all reasonable, but none cancer, none radiation. They never got sick, never vomited, nothing.
Nobody lost their hair.
Right. No, that's true.
Now, in Astronauts Gone Wild, which is... It's difficult to watch at best, right? It's a tough film to get through. It's uncomfortable, but I think it's
difficult for me to watch it too.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man. And thank you for talking about it because it's got to be uncomfortable. But it was also a film that needed to be made. Somebody had to do it. You were the guy that did it. First question, and then and let's discuss that. Are you proud of it, or maybe do you wish you maybe approached it a different way today?
No, I am not proud of it. If I had the opportunity to make it again today, I would not do it. I told the astronauts that I was doing a documentary about the moon missions, which was true. I am doing a documentary about the moon missions. I never told them that I thought it was fake. They assumed that I was one like many other journalists who were, there to listen to their propaganda. So I challenged them instead. They got angry and so forth. One guy kicked me, one guy punched me. And, it is, I suppose, good for the record to show, what they did. What's really interesting to me is that the CIA or whoever never warned them. Surely if they didn't go to the moon, which is true, and I'm looking into it, surely if they're doing their job, my phone calls are monitored. So they knew we were setting up these astronaut interviews and going to spring, a new point of view on them, and they didn't warn them, and I guess because it's true, very honorable, patriotic people in the government at the CIA, NSA, and so forth. And I think it makes this new generation of those type of people in the government and these intelligent, offices upset that the Nixon administration did this and besmirched the reputation of America. And so they don't like them. They don't like what they did. And so they deliberately chose not to warn them and let them flounder on their own. And you can see that in Astronauts Gone Wild.
Out of all of the astronauts, and we could actually take each one separately and discuss it because each one is unique in its own event, if you will. Out of each one of them, was there one interview that you came away with just going, okay, now he is lying? Which would be the best example?
Well, we have Buzz Aldrin telling the truth in his interview where we had 2 cameras and a monitor set up, and we showed him the footage that he was the cinematographer, and he took himself to be a photographer. So he's the one who shot this fake scene that we uncovered. And he saw it, and he said angrily, oh, and this makes you a real famous person for having discovered this. What an ego you must have to want to become successful this way. Well, wait a minute. This makes me a real famous person for having discovered this. That's an admission that I'm on the right track, because how can I become famous for exposing it if it's not true? So he actually admitted on camera by that statement that I'm correct, the moon missions are fake. And when he realized that, he backpedaled, and then he threatened to sue us if we showed his remarks acknowledging the fraud to anyone. And, we put it in there and Astronauts Gone Wild. You can see, maybe I did, 2 wrongs don't make a right, tricking them into this trap, At the time, I thought, well, they deserve it if they're guilty, just like O.J. Simpson, if he's guilty, deserves being hounded, if he's scot-free, if he did it. But now looking back on it, I think even if they are guilty, which they are, they deserve respect. And, they deserve to be talked to respectfully. And I did not do that. And I would not do it again, knowing what I know now. If anything happened on the way to the moon, there's enough proof that they didn't go. This is there. It is what it is, But again, if I had to make it over again, I would not have done it.
Well, what would you have done differently? I mean, how would you have approached them if you wouldn't use that style? Let's swear on the Bible, and pin them into a corner. If you weren't going to do that, how would you question them differently?
Well, I don't know that there is any way to do it differently. If I said I'm doing a documentary about the moon landings being fake, would you mind answering questions about it? I doubt if any of them would have agreed to the interview. Again, I'm picking on them a little bit because they're the ones who did it. And, like I said, I think the first film is better. It shows they didn't do it. They're going to have to make their own peace for what they did, just like I do for my mistakes in the past. And I think they deserve a little more respect than I gave them.
Yeah, right on. I can give you that. I'll give you that. One of the moments in the film, and it's something that for me has not been addressed directly. You did bring it up, but once you know what you're looking at, and I'm talking about the first Apollo 11 press conference when they come out on stage. And at that moment, Bart, and I'm glad that you caused us to look at their faces and their emotions. When they come out, it looks to me, and I've watched it so many times, that quite frankly, they don't want to be there. They're not happy. You would think that after that crowning moment of human evolution, it's the pinnacle, it's the peak, that their mood would be the exact opposite of what they were doing there on stage. And instead, we get some guys that, quite frankly, didn't want to answer questions and didn't want to be there. And what do you think about that scene when you look at it now? You've exposed this to us, but what do you think about that scene? Is that actually what is going on?
Well, being a filmmaker, what convinces me is the newly discovered footage of them taking a shot over and over again right in front of your eyes. However, about 1 out of 5 people, or 20%, say what convinced them is their expressions during the press conference, of which I only showed about 20 seconds or so. I mean, they look like they're at a funeral. They look like their mother just died, and they don't want to talk. They keep passing the buck, and they just look so discouraged. It's mind-boggling. It in no way whatsoever fits with conquering heroes. They landed on the moon. They did it. They survived. Isn't life grand? We didn't die. You know, it looks the exact opposite. It looks exactly like they lied about it, and they are lying, and they hate the fact that they are lying. You can see it in their expressions on their faces, I think, crystal clear.
And there was an exchange between Neil and who is the command module guy?
Collins.
Yes, Colin. When they don't have their story straight, and they both look at each other on who was gonna correct this, and it was about the stars, right? And tell me about that moment and how that hit you.
Well, they took an automobile to the moon, but they never took a telescope. And I think a telescope would be more important. Plus, are you really going to drive away from, more than walking distance from your life support system, and this car might break down and you don't have enough oxygen, water, or energy to walk back? I don't think you're going to do that. I think that's an unnecessary risk. So, each, moon rover in today's money costs $60 million. It had about, probably 20% of the parts of GPAS, very few parts to it. And it cost $60 million. And, I think, even little things like the slow motion footage, when you see them bouncing around on the moon, to me, that's proof. I mean, you double the speed, and it's so clearly slow motion. They didn't take a telescope. They could have just shot a picture of the stars with no atmosphere. It'd be like the Hubble, 30 years beforehand. But they never took a telescope because they couldn't fake the astrological positions of the constellations. And theoretically, deeper galaxies yet to be discovered that later, if they make a bigger telescope on Earth, would prove nothing like there. So they never photographed it. They never talked about it. But you can't help. One of the reporters asked during the press conference of Armstrong, did you remember seeing stars? And he says, I don't remember. I don't recall. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. If you're on the moon and you're going through this, amazing experience, and you look over the black horizon, either you're going to see stars or you're not. And if you, didn't, I'm sure you would have expected to. You would have talked about it. And if you did, it'd be, this, beautiful. They have pictures from Earth just during, sunset of the launch of the space shuttle, and you see the sun, the field, and stars in the sky. So surely, you know what I mean? You could see stars in the sky, but he said he doesn't remember. And when he says that, Buzz Aldrin flinches, and Michael Collins, who was supposed to be orbiting the moon while they two walked, says, I don't remember seeing any. Wait a minute, except he wasn't there. But because they were all together for 8 days in the same capsule, he had the same experience, and he kind of forgot. I don't remember seeing any. He's trying to help him from the debriefing. He's supposed to say, I don't remember, I didn't see any. And he's like, I don't remember, I'm covering for you. But wait a minute, he wasn't there. So when you get the written transcript from NASA, it's different than the press conference, which is also from NASA. And the video footage, which very few people have access to, it is Collins who says, I don't remember seeing any. But the transcript, which is what almost everyone gets, it says Buzz Aldrin said it. So lightning struck twice in the same spot. First, Michael Collins said he was there when he wasn't, and then the person doing the transcription makes a mistake in that exact same spot where Collins makes a mistake. And they say Buzz Aldrin said, I don't remember seeing any. That's two coincidences back to back at the same moment in time. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I don't want to drive this home, make too much of this, but we kind of have to. Because if it was me or you, Bart, and we just got back from the moon, we walk in that press conference with our arms in the air, music, fanfare, dude, we just did. You know what I mean? And when somebody asks you about the stars or the where's the enthusiasm? Well, you know what? I was looking for stars, man. I was looking. I didn't see them. I tried. I wanted to see what it would look like on the moon. Where's that answer? Instead of everybody looking down at the table going, oh, man, another question. Well,
not only is the 20 seconds the prime scene of that and a funny thing happened. If you go further down on the YouTube channel under moon landing films, there's the entire press conference unedited. I synchronized it from 2 camera angles, color corrected it, and you can see the whole press conference where they're just acting like they're at a funeral for over an hour.
Yeah,
it's sad. It's so telling. I'm surprised no one picked up on it.
It looked to me like, and go ahead and send me all the hate email you want, but those guys did not want to be there. They were looking down, they were fidgeting, and they couldn't wait for it to end. And that's not what you do after you come back from the moon.
Yeah, if you asked Adam, a 2-choice question, does it look like they're in the losing locker room of the Super Bowl or the winning locker room of the Super Bowl? Without a doubt, 99, 100% of the people would vote. It looks like they're in the losing locker room, and yet they're supposed to be in the winning one. Totally contradicts it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That's what I'm talking about. Could you imagine going into this, Super Bowl locker room? You've just won the Super Bowl. Yeah, man. Okay, man. You know what I mean? That's not what you would do. And that natural human reaction to coming back after something like that is what we wanted to see. And that press conference was absolutely the exact opposite. And you can go to BartSibrel.com and see all of this, by the way. And if you go to the conspiracy corner links that he's talking about, everything is right there, and it's all pretty comprehensive and well written. I've spent a lot of time on this site over the years, and you need to go and check it out for yourself. You just need to do that. Now, what about? I wanted to ask you about some of the views of like Edgar Mitchell and Gordon Cooper about the ET side of things. What do you make of that and Ed's and Gordon's take on this, where they seem to be stepping to the right of the status quo from NASA?
Well, here we have Edgar Mitchell, who claims he walked on the moon when he did not. Okay, so we got that on one side. Then he claims aliens are real. Well, wait a minute. He just claimed the moon landing was real, and it's not real. And then he claims aliens are real. I say they're not real. I say we've been conditioned with all these sci-fi alien movies to believe in aliens because aliens are coming in our future, like Reagan said, to unite the world in a struggle or who knows what. But they really brainwashing us into believing they're aliens. And I say if the guy who says the moon landings are real when they're not says aliens are real, you better believe they're not.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that came from nowhere. Really? So the triple hoax. Okay.
Well, there are 2 books out there. One is called One Cosmos Under God, and one is called Privileged Planet. And they explain from a mathematical point of view, scientifically, that life existing even on Earth is like winning the Powerball 20 times in a row, that life should not even exist on Earth. So the idea that there's 2 Powerball winners 20 times in a row, really it's the exact opposite of what we're taught, which is life is abundant everywhere. These books scientifically and mathematically prove that life is extremely rare and has to have been done by a creator. And life may only exist on Earth and nowhere else, the exact opposite of what we're being told, just like the moon landings.
What is it? What are the objects that we see there now?
What objects are you talking about?
The lunar lander. What's left from the LEM, the tracks, and that were left from the rover, and the other stuff that is there.
Well, according to NASA, there's no earthbound telescope powerful enough to resolve to see artifacts if there are any on the moon. And then they claim that the Hubble telescope is too powerful, though I know of people who work for the Hubble, and they said you very well could see footprints if you pointed it there, and they never did. So, there's a lot of folklore about it. And now they have lunar probes, allegedly, that show these scratches, that are alleged, foot tracks. But you have to remember They already faked, 47 years ago, full body pictures of an astronaut on the moon when he was in a television studio. They already did that. That's pretty brazen. And they did it with much older photographic technology than now. So to say that, after doing, that super high resolution on a fake moon surface picture, that these little scratches from a satellite image of the moon are somehow proof, that's like, asking the fox to testify, in his own defense after he stole the chicken. I mean, you're saying NASA proves that the moon landings are fake and they're the ones who faked it, or that they're real when they're the ones who faked it. I mean, it's pretty absurd, to say that these little scratches are proof when they already faked full body pictures,
What do you think Neil Armstrong was referring to when, I think it was Neil, that said they're already here? What was he in that transmission? What did that mean?
That's a fake story. It never happened. There's no transmission of him saying that. It's a folklore rumor. It didn't happen. You see, NASA doesn't care why you believe that the moon landings are real, only that you do. And if it helps believing in UFOs and they really sent secret crews to the other side of the moon and there's alien, pyramids there and that's why the pictures are fake. I mean, the vast majority of the UFO community acknowledges the pictures from Apollo 11 are fake. They acknowledge those are fake pictures, meaning Neil Armstrong is not on the moon, he's in a set. And while they acknowledge that, most of them say, yeah, but that's because they were really communing with aliens on a picnic on the other side of the moon. And that's simply not true. NASA doesn't care why you believe that they're real as long as you do. And if you believe they have the capability to go to the moon and they're hiding it, that's great. They just want you to believe they can go even though they can't.
So what about the transmission, allegedly, of them saying they're watching us? And we can see, and they're huge, and the crafts are huge, and we can see lights on the rim of the of the crater. What about all of that?
That's folklore. I mean, I've studied this, I would think, more than most people. I never heard that recording. That's just, folklore. It's amazing. You ask somebody what they saw on YouTube yesterday, and they get half of it wrong. You know what I mean? I've talked to people about this. This new Planet X object out there, and everyone says, it's near Saturn. They never said it was near Saturn. That's some other YouTube guy, and they're combining two half of stories together into one. And that's something that happened yesterday. You can imagine how foggy people's memories are about something that long ago.
That's interesting. So you're saying that all of those alleged transmissions that happened that were picked up by ham radio guys and that are out there never happened?
Absolutely. I'm pretty good at discerning people's voices. I used to do impressions. And I would do a side-by-side comparison like I did with the Kubrick film, the Kubrick's alleged real voice from another interview. And I've never even heard the sample. At least we have a fake Kubrick interview to compare it with the real Kubrick. But we don't have these transmissions. I've never heard of one. Otherwise, I would have been sent links to them, hundreds of times over the last 30 years. Never got one link to the audio of Neil Armstrong, because anyone, could tell whether it's really him or not, whether there's a cut between what really happened and someone staged something. This is just folklore, There's no proof of it whatsoever.
And what do you think about? I'm drilling you, man. I'm drilling you. You're in the witness chair in court right now. I'm just drilling you. What about the other videos that, and there's lots of them, showing objects in the background? There's one of the LEM. It's pretty incredible. I'm sure you've seen it. And there is an obvious a triangle in the background, and it's white, and it cruises right through the frame. What are we seeing there?
Oh, it's fake. I mean, this stuff is just invented by people who are trying to be cute. I mean, there is no Apollo 11 footage of UFOs. If anyone would have seen it, it would have been me. I've never seen it, And, it's so easy to stage things now, but it last that long ago. They're just, all these people who want to believe what they want to believe, and they're being cute, like at the Kubrick interview, and it's pretty amusing. But, all you got to do is logically ask yourself, why can't, they go to the moon today? Why does it take Russia 15 years from a goal set today to reach the moon? And 50 years ago, they did it in half the time, only 8 years, It doesn't add up. It's that simple. They didn't go to the moon. Now, you can think they didn't go for aliens or Nixon's a liar, or they just couldn't go, which is really the reason. And, that's what it is. The whole UFO thing is a distraction.
And what do you think about Jay Widener? He's talked about this with me many times about the Apollo stuff. Yes, it was hoaxed because we already had the technology and we were already on the moon and we had advanced technology. Yes, the moon landings were a hoax, and those were all done on sound stages here at Disney and what have you, because we already had the technology to get there and we were already there.
Well, if you were already there, that means you had the capability to go. And if you had the capability to go, why would you fake it when you're trying to convince people that you have the capability to go? The best way to prove it is to shoot the real footage of it. You had the capability to go, they would have put a camera 24/7, on the side of the rocket and showed, the launch and had it running in the lower left-hand corner nonstop all the way to the Earth and the moon if they really went. That's what they would have done to prove beyond any doubt of these rumors at that time that it was fake, and then they would have exploded something on the moon, like, big, firecracker, hand grenade, something like that. And that they never did that either. I mean, there's a lot of ways to convince that you're there, but very little ways, to really prove it, because he had no independent press coverage and just 3 government employees saying what they're told to say,
Was this the method of operation all the way through Apollo 17?
Well, I think they just repeated going to the moon because it costs so much money, allegedly, to do it. And if they're only doing Earth orbit, then it's going to cost, only 1/5 as much. You got 4/5 of the budget you can siphon off and do your own personal projects with. I think that's the only reason why they repeated going, is it just kind of was a cash cow for them. And that's why they did it. I mean, it comes out on NBC News, a few years ago during the latest, Afghan war, that Chinese company Halliburton was charging $40, for a plastic ice cube tray or something like that. It was $20. I think it was $20 for a plastic ice cube tray that you would buy retail at Walmart for 50 cents.
Right.
So that means they're exaggerating the cost of it 40 times. And no one did anything about it, I guess it's the fluoridation putting you to sleep.
What were the objects then, Bart, that the Soviet Union and the Chinese were tracking when we said we were going to the moon? Obviously, they were watching everything that we did. What were they tracking going to the moon? Empty capsules?
Well, I don't know that they could track it, but I think that's folklore too. In order to track something 3-dimensionally traveling through space, they'd have to have 3 satellites or points of view to triangulate it. And if they had 1, it wouldn't be enough. If they had 2, not enough. I think they simply bounced signals off of the moon, voice signals, TV, telemetry data, whatever, and it made it appear as though it was coming from the moon. Additionally, China and Russia, they're really not enemies. They're trading partners and they're vast billions and billions of dollars. China runs over their own citizens in, I think, 1990 with their own tanks. It was at 1989, and we still give them most favored nation trading status. So I think, they know the truth. In fact, in China, it's taught in elementary school, high school, and college that the moon landings are fake. Now, they may say their latest probe saw pictures of it. They may say they, tracked it back in the 60s. It's only because it's part of some deal. We won't call you on your BS. You won't call us on our BS. It's some negotiated thing going on. But what they really believe is what they teach their billion people. And it's an absolute fact. And, grade school and high school and college, they teach that the moon landings are fake. That's what they teach in China. And Russia, you ask any Russian, you get a survey on the street in Russia, what percentage of the people think the moon landings are real? It's probably maybe 10%. 90%, you don't know that it was fake. And they say the only people who think it's real are Americans.
One of the angles on this, and I want everybody to listen to me for a second. One of the angles that I have issue with is the abrupt stoppage of Apollo. That seems funky to me. That there was no Apollo 18. There's some people that say that Apollo 18 really happened too as well. There's, that we don't need to go there. But then we bounced off of Apollo into the space shuttle program where it seemed like we were keeping our momentum going, with SpaceX. We had Soyuz and we had Apollo and Skylab still occurring, and then the space shuttle. But nothing really happened beyond that, and then we stopped the space. Right now we don't really have a space program. That's what's even stranger, and everything seemed to come to a screeching halt, as opposed to the moon base that we were supposed to have in 1969 that we dreamed about, and a hotel there on the moon, and commercialization and Pan Am flying out there. None of that happened, and it seems like today we're behind where we allegedly were in 1968 and 69. And that is the biggest counter argument to that the moon landings actually happened, that we never went anywhere with the space program. And today I honestly feel like it's backwards. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think in the last 10 attempts of, test passenger vehicles or actual passenger vehicles for satellites, I think only about half of them went into Earth orbit successfully. I think about the other half in the last 2 or 3 years, they blew up. Bronson Stang and military satellites and things like that. And they're trying to just get Earth orbit, 50 years after they went to the moon, and they're still only succeeding half of the time. I think that should tell you something.
Yeah, it just feels weird. I don't know where the technology went, unless we have some kind of parallel secret space program running in the background that we just don't know about, and that exploration has been ongoing, not only with the moon but with Mars. That money has to have gone somewhere, and that momentum has to have gone somewhere. Where we are today just doesn't feel like where we should be when the rest of the world has progressed. The internet and technology and computers and everything that we have that is just blown up and gone somewhere. The space program has gone backwards, and that's where I feel a little bit lied to. It just doesn't make sense unless there's something, completely black that is running in the background. Bart, are you there? I think we lost Bart.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening to what you said. It's very profound, and time will tell. I think the longer time goes on, the more impossible the moon landing seemed. And, the film Interstellar was really the first film that made a non-comical reference to the moon landings being fake. And then you have this comedy, but they're still saying, the moon landings are fake. Then you have Capricorn 1, and then I say the truth will come out. Just like, if you had cancer, you probably, better off knowing the truth, even if it's unpleasant. That's the way we really need to look at the truth about the moon landings.
What are you working on now? I know you said
I'm going to write a book. Right. Yeah, I'm going to write a book called The Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, about a third done. And then I do Conspiracy Corner, kind of weekly alternative news through Sibrel.com. And that's about it. I hope to put it behind me and write only fiction in the future.
Well, you've certainly, like I said, you've nearly created an industry since 2001 on this from so many different angles, with other researchers jumping in. And once you open it up and cause people to think outside of the box, that's what they do, and they take it another step forward, and you are right at the center of it. And how do you feel about that? Is that a lot of responsibility, and is it heavy? Does it weigh on you, or, are you cool with it?
Well, it is heavy, I didn't plan on this being my little forte. It happens to be it. The way I look at it, Jimmy, is if they could have gone to the moon, let's say they did have the technology in the 60s, even though they can't right now. Let's say they did have the technology to plant a flag. That would have a certain level of significance historically to mankind. But if they couldn't do it, and they lied about it, and they murdered people to keep it a secret, and they lied in the encyclopedias, to me, Jimmy, that's more profound of an event than if they had actually gone. And now that we have photographic proof that it was fake, what we have is one of the greatest events in human history, the faking of the moon mission out of pride, and very few people can learn from this moment in history because they're hoarding the truth from the rest of us.
I want to thank you for coming back on the show, Bart, and keep us posted when the book comes out, and I can't wait to get you back on. Thank you, man.
No problem. Glad to be here.
You got it. Bart Sibrel, everybody. Just a great interview. Had a great time with him on Coast. Had to bring him back tonight. Thank you, Bart. And I encourage everybody, just go to Sibrel.com, Sibrel.com. Conspiracy Corner, you're going to spend the next month there. Go and check it out. All of his videos are there, and it's just great stuff. And the point of this show always is one thing, is to gather information. That's what I do for you. You gather, you listen, and go and do your own investigation out there. He raises so many points that we have to go back and analyze and try to figure it out for ourselves. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go into the Air Force until I found a thing called the electric guitar. But that's what I wanted to do. You know, TV shows like Space 1999 and UFO and the Apollo program and what that's what I wanted to do. And I was wrapped up in it. And today, as an adult, and I look back and I just wonder how we pulled it off. That's all. That's all. How did we do it? This is Fade to Black. When I come back, thank you, Bart. I'm going to be taking your phone calls. Phone lines are open, 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. What do you think? Did we go to the moon or not? Let's talk about it. I'll be back right after this.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Why do people order Life Change Tea? Because Life Change Tea helps the digestive system. Life Change Tea helps the colon unclog. The tea also helps with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and many, many other health issues. Life Change Tea also tastes great. And Life Change Tea is not just green tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs that go to town, cleaning your body of harmful toxins, bacteria, and parasites. Our tea is number 1. Are you ready for your life change? Let the tea help you. Log on to our online store of helpful products to get your body on track. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Not all tea is equal. Read our website of all the factual testimonies that prove that Life Change Tea is working. Health is important, and our quality of life is very important. Don't wait to order. Expect a life change with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high-quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Want to thank Bart Sibrel for coming in, the Apollo Moon Hoax. His documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, is a must-watch. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell is going to be here, Close Encounters of the Canadian Kind, and his new book, What If? Wednesday night, Jim Mars right here. We're going to be discussing the worldwide media conspiracy that involves all of us. And, of course, Thursday night, open lines. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's John Murphy from New Hampshire.
Hey, John, how are you tonight?
Not bad, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. What'd you think of the Bart Sibrel interview?
Oh, I actually just sent you an email about it, and I didn't know you were going to do phone calls. I really appreciate Bart and everything he's done. I've gotten many of internet battles sticking up for him and his views, especially like on YouTube, other things on the internet. I've always stood up for his 2 movies he's made and his opinions and stuff. And I really thought it was awesome that you got him back on tonight, especially after having him on Coast, only for a short time. But it was pretty cool to get him back on tonight, just to, try to revamp his opinions and everything and hear what he had to say about it. I mean, the whole Kubrick thing, I mean, we all know that's a gas, but it's just, I don't know, I guess I never knew he was really, I don't want to say one-sided or one-way, but he's definitely strong about his beliefs, which is appreciated from anyone. If you're not strong about what you believe in, you don't have your beliefs, right? I mean, am I right?
That's right. And that's why I respect anybody that stands up and doesn't back down. And
he does. He absolutely does.
One of have you seen his documentary?
Oh, yeah, many times. I show my girlfriend, I show my family, I show her family, friends, everyone at my school. I've shown, so many people that both of them.
And, it's one of those things where, and for me, I remember, years ago, a long time ago, and that movie came out in 2001. We got to remember, we're in 2015 it's 15 years. So, where, my belief in not only the Air Force and, things like the X-15 dropping off of a B-52 wing and I was into all of that, man. And I would sit and draw pictures and do my thing. I could draw a spacesuit like nobody's business at the age of like 8, right? And
me too. That's all I was into.
Right.
Freaking that X-Files. My dad, I was an Army brat, first father, so I was just like you, man, into all that stuff.
And you go and you watch that documentary as an adult when you get away from the sensationalism of being a child into this, and when you're an adult and you look at it now, it feels just a little bit funky to me, and it does. Could this be the greatest deception ever? One of the things, John, I'll throw this out there to you. One of the things that people say to me all the time, come on, man, you couldn't keep a thing like that secret. It would be impossible. And I can go down the list of things that were kept secret.
Secrets that have been kept for millennia.
For just tons. Look at the atomic bomb program.
Exactly.
That was kept under wraps. That's one. Look at, I'll give you a new, fresh example. 2 things. The F-117, we didn't know about until they decided to show us, number one. And number 2, the B-2 stealth bomber. That was in development for a long time.
Probably the first mistake for black triangles out there until they told us what it was.
Both of them, for that matter.
Most of them,
I
agree with you on that.
And those were kept secret until we saw it. It was just like, oh, really? This is what's been going on. And that's so when somebody says that they can keep something secret, no. It happens. Everything. They only let us know what they want us to know. Look what Snowden did. There's another example of that. So, Hey, John, man, thank you for the phone call. I want you to have a great, safe night, man. It's going to be a good show tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow night on the program.
I think your week lineup is awesome this week, Jimmy. I just want to let you know that. And you have a great, safe day, too, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, John. Be safe. What's up, Dino?
Hey, good evening. I thought if Bart would stay on, I'd ask him a few things, but I think I knew his answer. I have 3 things to bring up about this subject. Okay, number one, if the secrets that we hear about and the hidden knowledge on your program and other programs is true, there could be other there could be other explanations for all this. That there's no doubt that you can raise certain, inferences. It's always easy to find something negative, but it would seem to me, knowing what we know today, that there are other things that might be covered up. Not the fact that we went to the moon, but rather what we found once we got there. That may be what's being tried to be covered up.
Yes, I agree.
That's one point that it really happened. Number 2, thank you very much to you and Rita. I went to Contact in the Desert, and Edgar Mitchell, one of the more famous astronauts who did go to the moon, among other things, and who was a PhD and a very intelligent, I think, true man. And I got to question him. Yeah, he Skyped in, but still, I got the microphone and got to ask him. And what I asked him, I guess Fran could back me up, she was there, was I asked him, I said, I'm aware that you probably have certain secrets that you must keep for life. Are you planning on ever releasing yourself from that and telling us things that you know?
Shut up, Dino. You did not.
Yeah, something to that effect. I don't remember my exact words.
Wait. I hung out with you all weekend. Why am I hearing this now a year later?
Well, it was a very tiring week. There were lots of interesting episodes, and because I guess he wasn't there live and it was a crowded, hot room, I guess I didn't bring it up.
You didn't come out. We had that party, the Fate or Not party. You're standing there all night next to me. And you
but most people were not too communicative on a Earth level at that time. I was one of the few.
but you didn't come up to me and go, dude, I spoke to Edgar Mitchell today.
Well, you were very popular. I didn't want to crowd you, and I think Natalie had kind of pulled me aside to talk to me. So at any rate.
Okay, all right. Okay, you're dancing right now. But, okay,
no,
so
I'm not dancing. But at any rate, what he said was very succinctly. He said, yes, he said, there are things that I cannot talk about. So that could be many things. That could be what Bart is saying, that, oh, yeah, we didn't go to the moon, and I've been sworn to secrecy because of national security or whatever. But I took it as there are things, maybe beings, maybe craft, that he saw that he's not allowed to talk about. That's number 2. That's how I took it. Number 3, a few years ago I went to a museum, and they had all the still photographs, or many of the still photographs. I think they were from several Apollo flights. They were black and white, but they were on the lunar surface, and they had them blown up nice and big, and you could walk right up to them. And I walked around and looked at all those, and I must say they were much more sharp and clear than what we generally saw. And it made sense to me that, oh, now here's the good camera, because when I saw the first moon landing, I stayed up late, and we had a cheap black and white TV, and I remember at the time saying, man, this is a crummy TV picture, for going to the moon. So at any rate, those photographs to me seem to be real photographs. And when people say, well, you can't really see the stars, that was explained to me, well, the sun kind of lights up, and reflects off the surface, and it's pretty light on the moon. It's kind of hard to see, at least on the surface that faces us. So those 3 reasons tell me we went to the moon, but something's being covered up. And if they did do any Stanley Kubrick stuff, or the sun kind of lights up.
Keep going, Dino.
Okay, well, if I did see any kind of, filming of it, it might have been just as a backup to hide something else that was seen on the surface. So yes, there could be some filming and some footage that was placed in there to show to the public, but that doesn't prove to me that we didn't go there physically.
Right. I'm going to say to everybody, if you call into the show, turn down your audio in the background, because I'll hang up on you quicker than. But yeah, I agree with you, Dino, and all great points. And we just don't know, man. We just don't know the truth, and I just want you to have a great night, behave, and be well.
All right, I'm going to stay well. Good night.
Thank you, Dino. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? You're live right now. 3, 2, 1, 0. Yeah, Dino, phone lines are open. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. There are so many different questions when we look at this, because there's the side of we never went there. Then there's the other side that we got there and we weren't wanted, that there was somebody there already ahead of us, and there's that aspect. Then there's the other side of it that it wasn't worth it for us to go there anymore. There wasn't anything there. And if you think about it, the only one that really makes sense is the hoax one. This is Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Yes, Jimmy. How are you? This is Captain. How are you, sir?
Hi, Captain. How are you tonight?
I'm just doing fantastic. A good call tonight with Bart.
Absolutely.
I do want to ask you this. Are you familiar with the Black Knight satellite?
Of course.
Okay. Well, what I want to say is this. Pepsi, the Pepsi commercial, did a expose of a 12-minute video on YouTube, and I thought it was very well done. And the reason why I say that is because the scenario, the last 3 minutes of the scenario, is exactly how that's going to play out.
Well, what do you mean?
That satellite is indeed real.
Mm-hmm.
It is a interactive satellite. I do want to say that if anybody watched the last 3 minutes or the last minute of that video, the communication between the satellite and the entire people of Earth, we're going to do exactly that. We're going to invite our brothers and sisters from the stars.
Who sent the satellite?
Well, the satellite was there 13,256 years ago.
That's right. But
as you well know, that satellite was created by our fallen angels, the Anunnakis. The technology they had was far beyond what we can imagine, and that they came across during the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, and I'm quite sure you know about the East and the West. And in the West was Lemuria, and in the East was Atlantis. And a lot of this information you're going to find out that during the time when the Atlanteans were experimenting with, you would say, with nuclear weapons during that particular time. They developed nuclear weapons during that time. They didn't know how to control it until they blew the Earth up.
Well,
that's why you have all these scattered land masses. At one time,
okay, go ahead.
At one time, we were known as Pangea. At one time,
mm-hmm.
And that's all the land masses were connected from the very beginning. They were all connected. And if you look at Africa, and then you look at where the Gulf of Mexico is at, you can fit the horn of Africa right in that spot. America was a part of Africa at one point.
There's no question about all of that. But let me jump in here really quick, and I've got a bunch of other calls lined up here, Captain. Those shifts, the continental shifts, and all of that even though those are it's recent confirmation. But when you look at you can see how everything was fit together. When we go, so I agree. But when we go beyond that, who sent the Black Knight satellite here? What's its intention? And tying it into either the Anunnaki or other lost civilizations of the past, all of that is speculation too as well. It's all possible. But
guess what? I like what you said. Guess what? I like what you said. The question is, the President Obama, I'm going to say this. President Obama said something very interesting during his campaign. He said, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Okay? Now, when we put all that together, and what this individual says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And the question is this. That satellite is indeed us coming back from the future. In other words, they came back to say, we are the ones. We're the ones. And the thing about that is, we are indeed the ones we've been waiting for, because they are our future, we are them, and they are us.
Well, exactly. And that is something that I was actually getting to. That's what I was trying to... It's always about the evidence. So what do we have? Well, we have evidence that the satellite was being tracked going back 40, 50, 60 years, that it was in a polar orbit, that it weighed a lot. It was tons and tons and tons, more than we had the technology to send up, us or the Soviets. The Soviets were sending up at that time, when we were tracking the Black Knight satellite, they were sending up things the size of grapefruit, right? That was their satellites. We didn't have the technology to throw things up that were 10, 15 tons or however big the Black Knight was. We made some kind of contact. It was photographed. It was emitting some kind of signals and codes that we have not only monitored, but seem to have cracked. So that's the evidence of the Black Knight satellite. It's been photographed, it's been tracked, it's polar orbit and so forth. And also that its movement was going east-west and west-east and was apparently changing up there too as well. And we didn't have that technology, and we were fascinated with that. It was written up in Time magazine. It was written up in multiple newspapers, and we were fascinated with we thought that maybe somebody else beat us to space, and there's that. So we know that it's real. We haven't.
And guess what? Jimmy? You're absolutely right. And guess what? Guess who's the manufacturer of all the different type of galactic spaceships? Guess what planet manufactures all the different type of spaceships?
You're going to tell me right now.
I'm going to tell you right now. It is Saturn. Saturn is the manufacturer or the assembly line for every space vehicle that we see out there that is of galactic origin.
Wow. Okay, that's a whole nother show.
And I can talk about that too, in the future.
All right. Hey, Captain, have a great, safe night, my brother.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I'll talk to you. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, brother Jimmy, this is Bob.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Yeah, I'm in the camp where I believe that they made it there, but they saw things they couldn't report on. That's why they looked so unhappy in the interviews, because they knew there's something happened there, or they saw what they saw, and they couldn't report it.
So they were in shock.
Yeah, well, and plus, I think, like Neil Armstrong, he never really enjoyed being in the public eye.
Wow. I'm not so sure about that. But I'm more fascinated with what you just said. I'm with you. You know, if we lay out, Bob, 3 or 4 different scenarios. A, it was all a hoax. We didn't go. That's scenario number 1. We didn't have the technology. That's getting easier and easier to swallow today when we know we're carrying around cell phones with all this power. But they went up there with hydraulics and wires and just great. Oh,
I know.
Think about the circuitry that we have today. Think about the circuitry that was in your 1969 Magnavox television. That's what took them up there. But putting that aside, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is we got there and we got the crap scared out of us, right? That's scenario number 2. And scenario right. And then scenario number 3 is it just got too expensive and it wasn't worth it, so we just stopped. That's scenario number 3. That's the one that they want us to believe, right?
Exactly. Right.
And do any of them really? It's like 3 crazy. But you know what? The last one, the one that they want us to believe, that's the one that's the hardest pill to swallow, isn't it? The other two make more sense.
But yeah, we can spend billions of dollars on a telescope. Instead of going back to the moon and investing into travel. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, what do you think? What did you think about? Have you seen Bart's documentaries? Have you seen both of them?
His, I haven't. I've seen others, but his, I have not seen yet.
Well, his breakthrough moment, he's got like 2 or 3 in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. And one of them is the video that Buzz Aldrin shot. And the reason why you know it's Buzz is because at the end of the video, Buzz pops his face into the picture and he looks into the camera. So you know it's Buzz shooting it. And in that, he's saying that they put an overlay on the window of the space capsule, a clear piece of film that had Earth on it, right? And they were shooting through the film, and that was the Earth that we saw from a great distance away. And there's at one spot in it, you can see, I believe I have to go back and watch the accident that happens, but like the film peels away, and then after that, you can see through the window, and there's no Earth, right? There's like a mistake that is made, and they do it, and boom. I think that's how it goes down. You have to go and watch it again for yourself. But that's one of his aha moments. Then there's another one where this guy from the CIA, and I believe he even identifies himself. But anyway, he's like, okay, remember, there's a 4-second delay between you and the questions. Okay, so hold, you got to wait 4 seconds. And that's a trippy moment. And, they're being directed on how to answer. It's a weird thing to go down in, because why would you need to say what do you need to do that for if it's real? Because you wouldn't have to do that. The 4-second delay would be there. 5 seconds.
No, they shouldn't. Yeah, so they should know that.
Yeah, it's a pretty trippy thing. And Bart puts all the other stuff together there. One of them is that press conference. And that press conference feels funky to me. If you look at it now with that set of glasses on, right? You're putting on the BS glasses, and you watch that press conference. Bob, I'm serious, man. Those guys are bummed out. They're looking down. They're fidgeting. They don't want to answer questions. They don't care. They're disconnected, and they don't want to be there. Is that what a conquering hero does?
It's hard to, I grew up, I'm in Ohio, and I'm about 6 miles north of Neil's hometown. And I've been to his museum and stuff, and it's just, that's why it was kind of hard for me, sink in, because I'm more or less a neighborhood dude,
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to hear Bart say, because I'm serious, that's an uncomfortable film to watch, Astronauts Gone Wild. If he would have done it differently, he was like, dude, I wouldn't have done it at all. Because he did. Yeah. And he put these guys, confronting them in a public place with the Bible. Swear in the Bible that you went to the moon. Well, but I understand his intention. Somebody had to do it. But, oof, man, it's uncomfortable. It is, man. If anything will make you fidget in your seat, it's that. Hey, Bob, thank you for the phone call, man, and thank you.
Oh, no problem, Jimmy. I just had to put my 2 cents in, and hey, man, keep it on, man.
Keep doing what you're doing, brother. Thank you for everything.
You too, man. Thank you. Bye.
And all great points. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to keep the phone lines open, and as soon as we take this break, more of your phone calls. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. What do you think? Did we go to the moon or not? Did we go there and see something crazy? Were we told not to come back? There's that. Or did we just run out of money and it wasn't worth it and we just stopped? Is that all of that when we come back? 323-825-5045. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Back right after this.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hi, folks. Ray Sobbs here with KGRA to tell you about something very special taking place in February 2016. I'm talking about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place at the beautiful ski and snowboard resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. We've got Richard Dolan, Chase Kletzky, Micah Hanks, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, Mike Barra, and keynote speaker Stanton Friedman will be presented a Lifetime Achievement Award. George Norrie and his producer Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM Live will be with us all weekend. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself a retreat on top of the world the first weekend in February 2016 with a one-of-a-kind ufology event featuring some of the top minds in the field. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now and register at aliensnowfest.com. I'll be there. Don't miss out.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for that perfect gift for the holidays? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. Just in time for Christmas. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best Christmas deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I want to thank Bart Sibrel for coming in tonight. And his documentary is absolutely amazing. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Go check it out. You can do it. www.sibrel.com. Sibrel.com. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell's going to be right here. Close Encounters of the Canadian Kind, and his new book, What If? Wednesday night, Jim Mars, right here, the worldwide media conspiracy. Let's go back to the phones, and the one and only Gene Vito. Gene, what's up?
Hey, evening, boss.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Look, going back to your question just before the break, did we just run out of money and give up? Well, we've obviously spent $20 trillion since the space program and ran up a debt that big. So, I don't think we ran out of money. But the other thing I'd like to say is that skepticism has grown into a gigantic industry, and all of the lies that have been revealed over the past half a century lend themselves to this industry. So I believe it's a smart thing to be skeptical, but I don't believe it's a good thing to be so carried away with it that you just don't believe anything anymore.
Well, Gene, check this out. In 1980, right? 1970, 1975, 1980, 1985. Somebody said something. You either had to hear it on one of 3 channels on TV, or you got it from Time magazine that came in the mail once a week, or you got it from the newspaper. But to go and research or to question or to look into or do anything, you had to go and do research. You had to go to the library. You had to get out microfiche. You had to research and what was that card filing system that they had in the library? You had to go and do that, right?
Right, that's right.
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal System. You remember that?
Yeah.
So questioning took work, and you just didn't do it. Now today, Gene, somebody says something, that stuff can be double-checked, rechecked, all over the place. And too many people can go and listen to something at the same time and go and check it out. If you don't have your ducks in a row, you're going to get busted. Look at the Kubrick interview that surfaced the other day. How long did that take to get debunked? A couple of hours?
What a great job you did with that, you and the crew.
But look at that,
Mr. Widener.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a different world today. You're absolutely right. And to be skeptical today is easy. You can go and figure stuff out very, very quickly. That's why on this show, Gene, I throw out the information. I throw it out there. It's not my job to be judge and jury. I'm not here to question Bart Sibrel about whether, things are right or anybody else that comes on this show.
You're there to find out exactly what Bart Sibrel thinks and all the other guests.
That's it. And then let's go and figure it out, man. And that's right. The beauty of the show. Thank you so much, Gene.
Oh, and there's such a panoply of information today, the entire internet, Google, or what have you, that you can dig every different direction, just like fracking oil. You can go down and you can dig in sideways and find out everything you need to find out.
You know what's funny? A couple of it's happened. It happens every time somebody sends me something. Somebody sends me an image. I Google search it. Boom, done. And I forget what it was, but just an example. Somebody sent me a picture, and I was like, okay, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Google search took me right back to a website for a computer, a CGI company up in San Jose, where all they do is create stuff for companies. Different things. It doesn't have to do with space or aliens or anything, but they create artificial stuff. So you want a new lobby for your hotel. Boom, we'll design it for you. You can look at it, look real. It's like that, right? They create artificial environments. And they sent me this picture, and I clicked, and boom, it took me to their website. And I immediately responded back, dude, okay, don't, please. Yeah. We are able to do that. We couldn't do that 20 years ago. We didn't have that capability to go and just, find out the origination of all of this stuff, where it came from. So don't try to pull stuff over people's eyes today. And there was really quick, we posted these pictures of this stuff that came out of Eastern Europe a couple of days ago. So we posted. It looked fun, and there was a news reel that was created, and the local news went out and interviewed the family. It was a UFO that was, an object in the background with these trees. You probably saw it. Well, anyway, that object that is in the background in these trees is in all kinds of different scenes all over the, and it's just, we can easily debunk it right away. The reason
one other thing I'd like to say, boss, before I hang up. Hello.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to say that was some rockin' Twisted Sister Christmas music you played. And I want to wish everybody out there, all the Fadernauts, all the listeners of Fade to Black, KGRA, iHeart, I want to wish you a Merry Fader Christmas. Boom, baby. That's right.
Thank you, Gene, and be safe, man. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Love you, brother.
Love you back. And all great points. And so back to the reason why I had already gone in before I posted it. I just wanted people, because this was circulating on the web, and I was sent stuff from over in Europe. And I went and looked at it, and I was able to pick it apart immediately. But I posted it up. I posted the television news crew that went out to this family's house and interviewed everybody. And one of the women there is showing her cell phone with the images on it. Okay, cool, all right. But at that point, I had already gotten to the bottom of it. So I just wanted to see how quick we could diffuse the situation. Little test. So I threw the images up there. I threw the news footage up there, and I wanted to see how quick it would get taken apart. And it was within a matter of minutes. And it was interesting to see how quickly it could be done. I did it in seconds, and apparently so did everybody else. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, this is Chuck in Kansas. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, Chuck? Everything good?
Oh, man, been working that ice storm in Oklahoma City for a while. But, man, I was listening to the show tonight.
Yeah.
Man, I'm leaning towards, I don't think they actually went on the moon trip, it seems like to me, and everything I've read. But it sounds awful fishy, a lot of the details on it.
Have you seen Bart's documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon? Have you seen it?
No, I was planning on watching it after the show tonight. Yeah, I guess I'd go to the site, right?
It's a life changer, man. It really is. And look, if the job that Bart is doing in this, because he presents 30, 40, 50 different things to look at, but if just one of those pans out, if just one of those changes, then it's done its job to just question everything. That's all you got to do. He does such a good job in pointing out so many different things, and other researchers as well. Once you dive into this and you start to look, I and Bart knows this, and everybody else does too as well. I'm just in the middle here, because I want to believe that we went to the moon. I want to believe that Buzz Aldrin and Neil and Collins and Mitchell and everybody were just heroes and went out there and risked their lives. You heard me say a couple of weeks ago on the show, I'm sure, when I said, somebody asked me if I would go to Mars, right? Or if I would if a UFO came down, would I get on the ship and go, right? And never see my family again. Well, all of those astronauts that bolted themselves into a firecracker, right? And blasted off into space, they didn't know if they were coming back. Those guys were willing to put it all on the line. Heroes, absolutely. If you're going to go and do that and risk never seeing your children or your wives or your parents or anybody ever again, you just don't know if you're coming back. We've seen the space shuttle disasters. We've seen, the original Apollo, all of that, some tragedies, right? So they are heroes. But now I'm in the middle here where I'm questioning my own judgment on what I was fed versus what I know now is fact. Radiation, technology, the ability to break Earth's orbit. How much fuel did it take? The temperature, the spacesuits, the batteries, the ability to land. The one thing I didn't bring up with Bart tonight, that is one of the greatest points of all, is there's no disturbance underneath the lunar lander. There's none there. I mean,
I didn't think about that. You're right.
what happened there? Why don't we see some kind of, even if it was small, but some evidence of disturbance of the moon dust underneath the LEM when it landed? Wouldn't we see disturbance there under each one of those pads, right? The 4 legs that come down. Wouldn't those have just gone, and blown up dust everywhere up into the, and it would be seen around the lunar land. You know what I'm saying? I've seen buildings get blown up. I know what dust does, pulverized cement up in the air. It's not smoke, it's dust. And it doesn't go anywhere, man. And where was that? Where was that with the lunar lander when it landed? I don't know, but I still want to believe that we went. I don't want to have my heart broke, but I'm feeling.
If you had to lean one way or the other, would you lean towards it not happening, or would you lean to the other way? I know you say you're in the middle, but man, everything and like that deal you brought up with no disturbance when it's landed. So many things just don't add up when you start really thinking about it.
Well, and again, that's the point. It's not one little thing. It's the preponderance of the evidence. It's how much of it piles up. It is the question of radiation and fuel and the technology and spacesuits and micrometeorites and everything. We can just keep going on and on and on. And then Bart shows the film overlaying over the window inside of the lunar capsule. The Apollo module, the space capsule. Why did they have to do that? Why are they misleading us there? Is it because the Earth wasn't there and they couldn't photograph it, so they wanted to make it an illusion? Or that they weren't there at all, and they had to show that they were 150,000 miles away from the Earth when they actually weren't, and they had to do that. There's all kinds of different things that just keep adding up, one big pile after another. So there you go. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think, you know what the truth is? I think one day we're going to find out, and we're going to be shocked, and that's the truth.
Can you imagine the backlash that's going to happen if they find out, the public, that they faked that? My gosh, that would be bad.
Yeah, can you imagine the Million Man March would be one thing. That would be a whole nother march on D.C. Thank you for the call, Chuck. Have a good night.
All right, talk to you, Jim.
Thank you, man. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Jimmy, this is Mark.
Hey, Mark, how are you? How are you, man?
I'm great. I was listening, and I had this thought, and it's about the moon, and it's about 9/11. And it's just a whole bunch of conspiracy and why things are compartmentalized and top secret. And it's pure speculation, but I'll make it quick. What if there was a terrorist attack on 9/11, but it wasn't the people on the planes who were later found out to be alive in various parts of the world, but instead it was an alien technology that various groups we've been trading for? And what if one of the people who traded for that technology was Saddam Hussein? And it makes sense, really, if you think about him being in Babylon, where the Anunnaki originally landed, and, where they probably would come back to make contact. And if that type of technology was used, because whatever took down the Twin Towers, I don't think was anything conventional. We don't really have anything conventional that turns steel and concrete to dust like that. So my thought was, well, if Saddam had used this alien technology that had been traded for, and even if we had that technology, there could be very good reasons for wanting to keep it secret. If you don't want, you don't give a monkey a laser rifle, is what I'm saying.
Oh, hey, I'm trying to follow you on this. Okay, so let me try to repeat, and if I've got it wrong, help me out here. You're saying that the 9/11 conspiracy wasn't terrorist, but it was technology that Saddam Hussein had acquired from ET out there in Iraq, and okay, so is that where you started with that?
That's pretty much it. You remember the Vimana in Afghanistan?
Yes, I do.
It was reported like all these world leaders went to Afghanistan to recover this Vimana. I think it could be the same thing. I think that whether or not Saddam Hussein actually perpetrated the attacks, or whether he had just obtained the technology and shared it with people he wasn't supposed to share it with.
Why? Okay, but why would Saddam attack us?
Why would we attack him?
But why wouldn't he attack Iran with that technology? Why wouldn't he have won the Iran-Iraq war? I'm not trying to poo-poo what you're saying. I'm saying if he had that technology, why us and why not Tehran?
I don't know. It's pure speculation. It's just something that has been tickling around the corner of my brain for the last few days. That if we're trading for alien technology, and we do have the technology to take ET back home, then we would fake a public moon landing. We would, whether we were there or not, because we'd never share that technology.
Wouldn't he have used that technology to against Schwarzkopf? You know,
good question.
Or maybe he didn't have it developed by that point, and he had to wait until later, until 2001 instead of 1991. There's that. But then why wouldn't he have used it to kick us out of Iraq and the no-fly zone that was going on? And he knew that, Bush was, W was getting ready to invade. Why wouldn't he have used that technology against, the Marines and the Navy that was, marching back into Iraq?
The Pentagon was targeted. And I don't know what hit the Pentagon, but I know that it wasn't a plane. There were no marks on the building from wings. And in the early pictures of the first hole, there's no debris of the engines, which were the heaviest and the densest part of the plane. There wasn't any even shrapnel from pieces of anything like that at the Pentagon site. So whatever it wasn't a plane. And whatever destroyed the Twin Towers doesn't pulverize those buildings into dust.
All good points, all good points, Mark, and you raised some good questions. It's, man, I can't wait for the day, and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be bad for a little bit. It's going to be bad, but there's going to be a day when a lot of these questions are answered on all different fronts, not only the ET question or the Apollo moon hoax question, but going back to JFK or 9/11 or just crazy things that are going to get answered, and it's going to be traumatic and it's going to be heavy, but we're going to find out the Illuminati, the cabal, the New World Order, who is really running Halliburton and why was Dick Cheney doing the things that he was doing. I think there could be competing factions, and I also think that the reason that the Baghdad Museum was looted was specifically to get rid of historical evidence that relates to this alien technology or Vimanas or scalar weapons. Well, there was all of the. You think about how many of those tablets disappeared. That's a bizarre thing. But I wanted to go back to one of your points, and it was, man, I hate it when my brain does that, and it just did. But one day it's gonna happen to us. We once. I know what I was going to bring up was, when Tony Blair was waving those documents around that were faked CIA documents that were coming out of South Africa and about, purchasing of plutonium and uranium for a nuclear bomb. All of that. And it all turned out, all of this turned out to be fake. And there's once it starts to get unraveled, it is going to.
And he was convicted. He was convicted in an international court. Cheney, Bush, Blair, all of them. And then, Blair had to flee back to Britain to keep from being arrested in Africa.
Yeah,
Bush and Cheney don't leave the country unless it's to go to Saudi Arabia or someplace they know they're safe.
Well, and the point that I've always brought up about 9/11, whether you want to say that there was a tactical nuclear weapon that brought it down, or that it was different types of demolition that was or it was a hologram airplane, or whatever it is, those alternative views out there. Okay, I don't really. That part of it doesn't really matter to me as much as what I believe is fact today is that Washington knew about it before it happened. And that is the real tragedy of a conspiracy, that they knew. And all of the lies that brought us into Iraq, and the statements in front of the United Nations and Congress and Tony Blair and everybody else, that was all of this evidence that was all fictitious, and the fact that bin Laden's family was allowed to fly out of the United States when we didn't have any planes in the air at all. And that right there just says that they knew about it in advance. That's my point, and that is where the conspiracy starts. And if that little bit is true, that is the tragedy for us in Washington, D.C. Everybody needs to understand what I'm trying to say. I don't know what happened with the Twin Towers. I don't. But I do know that Washington knew about it in advance.
Right.
And that
I don't know either, but I know that whatever it was isn't anything that we know about. Not publicly. I mean, whatever happened to those buildings isn't anything we know about.
And that is what we should be up in arms and screaming about, is that Washington knew. They knew. They knew. When Bush was reading that book to the kids in that classroom, he was not surprised. That whisper in his ear was, "Okay, they finally did it." Okay.
Yeah, so we've got this huge history of doing it, of lying, and to get us into wars to make profits. And so what's another way to make a huge profit on a giant scam? It would be a space program. Billions and trillions of dollars went into it. Now we got some technology out of it, so they say. We got a microwave oven. That's something everyone can relate to. But
Mark. Yeah.
We've got the messages that were decoded from the Japanese before the Pearl Harbor bombing. We've got the Gulf and Tonkin incident in Vietnam. We have a long, long history that stretches way back before that.
Lusitania.
Being led into war by lies.
Yeah, Lusitania. Operations Northwoods.
Exactly.
It goes on and on and on and on. Yeah. Thank you for the phone call, Mark. You took us right to the end tonight, my brother.
All right, Jimmy.
Have a great night.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
I want to go back. There was I've just got 2 short minutes here. There were a few things that were brought up. I want to go back. Emma posted this, and I wanted to get to this earlier. She said, ask yourselves, this is in Twitter, ask yourself why architects and surveyors don't factor in the curvature of the Earth. Now, just that post right there makes me want to respond in a few different ways. Okay? Number one, I'm not sure why somebody would bring up the curvature of the Earth. Emma, no disrespect. I just want you to hear my answer to this. When I read a post like that, it seems to me that the question of the Earth being curved instead of flat, and that everything is flat and we don't make adjustments for things that are curved with the flat Earth discussion, it needs to be discussed. And the point is, no matter what, when you're building a structure with an architect, you are going to level the place that you are at. And that's what we do, Emma. We level the curve. Think about that for a second. You can't build a building on a curved surface. You would build it flat. And I saw a video the other day. Man, I'm so into this flat Earth thing right now. I'm just constantly reading and researching. there was a distant shot of buildings off in the distance, whatever, 50 miles away, 40 miles away, 30 miles away. They zoom up to it, and they're showing it's all fuzzy, but they're straight up and down. Then he backs back off and goes, how come they're not angled? And I'm watching the video, and I'm like, dude, they're not angled because you're straight in front of it. It doesn't matter. It's straight in front of you. Think about that for a second. Perspectives change all the time on your peripheral. If you're swinging it out to hard left or hard right, things are angled. But if you're looking at anything straight on, it's straight. And that's what was going on in this video. I have no idea why I'm watching minutes and minutes of this where this guy is going back and forth with this when the obvious is right in front of you. It's in front of you. It's going to be straight up and down if it's in front of you. Think about that for a second. This is Fade to Black. I want to thank Bart Sibrel for coming on tonight. Great conversation. And one that it didn't end tonight. We'll never answer that. I don't know. Maybe not in my lifetime. Thank you, Bart. Great conversation. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dennis. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar, Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night, Bob Mitchell right here. Close Encounters of the Canadian Kind and much more. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.